Chapter 193 Vicious Pill King's Reemergence. Chapter 193 Vicious Pill King's Reemergence. Zhuofan easily picked on the three's thoughts and jeered, "You should all lighten up and be thankful that all of you are unworthy of me ending you personally. Not with your meager strength. The one all of you shall have the honor of facing is our Pill House Elder." Zhuofan patted the elder's shoulder. "Elder Yen, they're all yours." "Haha, don't worry, Steward Zhua, these old goats are nobodies. I'm more than enough for them." Yen Song laughed, bringing out the old Vicious Pill King's haughty demeanor back out. Zhuofan nodded and chuckled before leaving. The three elders' faces were pitch black. As the saying went, death before dishonor. Even though they were all far beneath Zhuofan's match, his utter disregard of them had their minds filled with nothing but rage. "By the way, who was this cocky uncle Zhuofan left them with? We don't know what hole you crawl out of, nor do we care, but who do you think you are to talk to us like that? Zhuofan?" The three stared daggers at Yen Song. The latter was quite relaxed and confident. "Old coot, state your name." "I do not kill without knowing my opponent's name," Yu Laolu coldly stated. The other two watched Yen Song with the same desire, to rip him apart. Grinning, Yen Song's eyes glinted evilly. "Humph, I'm afraid of making you wet your pants if I do." "Oh? Do enlighten us please as to what other circus clown the third-rate Luo clan has besides your freak, Zhuofan." "Ah." The three's laughter dripped sarcasm. Squinting, Yen Song's mouth curled in pride. "Then unclog your ears and prepare to be amazed. I am Yen Song." "What?" The three were dumbstruck, with bulging eyes and everything. Especially Pill King Hall's Yen Jinglan. His eyes were as big as saucers. They all knew Yen Song fell at the hands of Zhuofan in the chaos of drifting Flower City. How the hell did he end up here, and as Luo clan's Pill House elder no less? When Yen Jinglan and Lin Ruffing came from their stupor, they looked at Yen Jinglan. He was the only one here who was most familiar with Yen Song, being from the same house and all. He should spot immediately if that man was the real Vicious Pill King. After a long and hard scrutiny, Yen Jinglan gasped, "Vicious Pill King, Elder Yen Song. It's really you?" Yu Laoyo's heart trembled and his face grew solemn. No wonder this geezer mocked us. While he was known as the Vicious Pill King, they were truly and utterly titleless. "Why, Yen Song? Why did you betray Pill King Hall?" Yen Jinglan shouted. Yen Song had only mockery for him. Vicious Pill King had followed the natural course and died in drifting Flower City from Zhuofan. And from his death, Yen Song was reborn. Tell me, where's the betrayal? Besides, with me out of the picture, isn't the Vicious Pill King title up for grabs? I'm not naive. Don't tell me the Pill King Hall didn't break out in celebration once they heard of my death. Yen Jinglan stammered in silence. From his reaction, the others knew Yen Song told the truth. No wonder he betrayed Pill King Hall. He had nothing holding him there, no relation to speak of. Scratching their nose, the elders' eyes exposed a fierce light. With everything clear, any argument from them would do nothing in bringing Yen Song back. In that case, they had to go through Yen Song if they wanted to clear the array. But Yen Song's old title still gripped their hearts in fear. "Old Yen is an expert in poisons. It is my domain as well. I will hold him while you two flank him from the sides. We have to end this swiftly. It will be hard to get to him once he hides behind his rainbow cloud palm." Yen Jinglan signaled the two as he whispered. The two nodded. Yen Jinglan then shot like an arrow for Yen Song with an outstretched palm. A python made of purple miasma came out and threatened to bite Yen Song. High spirit ranked martial art, shifting cloud palm. His mouth tracing a cold smile, Yen Jinglan mocked, "Humph, Yen Jinglan, an inept like you who can't use the rainbow cloud palm dares to play with poison around me." 7 colored veils of mist flew from Yen Song's palms like dragons, forming a rainbow storm crushing the purple python and rushing for Yen Jinglan. "Humph, now this is Pill King Hall's real skill, profound ranked martial art, rainbow cloud palm." Yen Jinglan focus sharpened and forehead started to ooze cold sweat. However, he was in no rush because he knew that he was going to be sacrificing himself. Suddenly Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffing appeared left and right of Yen Song. Yen Jinglan laughed, "Yen Song, you're done for. You're exposed before you hide in the rainbow cloud palm's poisonous mist. I may not train in your martial art, but I know it like the back of my hand. And you will suffer dearly for it." Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffing had vicious grins, thinking this win was in the bag. When the grand Vicious Pill King fall under their attacks, who would anyone dare call them without a title in the future? Although Yen Song's face didn't seem particularly worried. As the two's palms inched closer, he made a hand sign and two dragon roars echoed out. Suddenly, two groans came as two dragon tails jumped from the earth and sent the two men barreling. Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffing were still trying to make sense of everything. They were just inches from striking down Yen Song when out of the blue, their bodies were flung about like garbage. Just as they smacked the ground 200 meters out, the rainbow storm engulfed Yen Zhenglan. Boom. Yen Zhenglan flew a full 100 meters as he spat black blood. His body was now filled with the deadly poisons of the rainbow cloud palm. Yu Laolu and Lin Ruffing crawled back to their feet. They felt weary for some odd reason and looked down in shock. The green vestige on their body was evidence of poisoning. How? The three roared at the same time. Yen Song snickered with an evil glint in his eye. Yen Zhenglan, you aren't useful even as bait. You take me for a sitting duck if I'm not hiding in the rainbow cloud palm mist? Did you forget where we are? This here is a 5th grade array, the poison dragon array that I am able to control. Here I can create all the poison mist I want. Your plan failed the moment you thought it out. Yen Song made another sign. Roar. 7 dragon roars were heard as 700-meter-long dragons of different colors came from beneath his feet. Their maws were open and the poisonous stench was easily felt coming from their fangs. If not crushed to death in their grip first, the poison would rip them apart from the inside out. The three cried in alarm. Yen Song alone was bad enough with his nefarious poison, but now with this 5th grade array he was invincible. Not even a radiant stage expert could escape him, least of all them. The three's hearts sank as despair set in. Yen Song cackled like mad just as he did back in the drifting flower city. That rampant vicious pill king was back. Yen Song's ego even grew if that was possible. Because he had the 5th grade array he was God. Not even a radiant stage expert can take me on. Ha ha ha. In another place, Sun Clan's father and daughter along with Kai Clan's father and son finally came to Blackwind Mountain. Since flying was not an option, they had to rely on their tiny legs to run themselves into exhaustion. But as they gazed upon the 4 light pillars, hope glimmered in their eyes. Cough, cough, congratulations 6th elder for your complete success. Sun Clan head panted then cupped his hands and bent his waist 90 degrees down angle. Sun Yufei felt awkward. Father, there's no one here. What are you doing? Haha, foolish girl, the elders are cleaning up the Luo clan and would surely gain many contributions for this. As those experts move fast, I fear that my nerves may get to me when the time comes to congratulate them and my manners would slip. It's best I practice my performance for when it counts. Sun Clan head smiled. Yufei, let's do it together for a brighter future. Sun Yufei's mouth twisted in revulsion. Congratulations, elderly, in returning victorious. Suddenly Kai Rong bowed as well as he mocked Sun Clan head. If you want a sponsor you have to think big. Elderly is a regent estate venerable. Everything will be ours once we earn his favor. He shouting practice along? Kai Rong patted Kai Xiaoting's shoulder. A chip of the OL block, Kai Xiaoting's gesture was spot on like his father's. Sun Yufei felt more disgusted than ever. Sun Clan head sneered, Kai Clan head, you sure are ignorant. But what can you expect when you haven't been in touch with the 7 houses and know nothing about them? A venerable may be strong but they ignore house affairs. Only elders hold the true power in a house. Your ass-kissing has more worth directed at an elder. They are the ones who can make you a vassal clan. Sun Clan head spoke with immense pride. Kai Rong scowled and smoothened his beard as he sank in his thoughts. Then a lazy voice reached them, ass-kissing must be done in style. One wrong kiss and you'll get the gallows. I mean, won't you offend the venerables if you only do it to elders? And if you flatter the venerables, won't the elders feel irritated? What a dilemma. Why not both? You may get nothing but at least you'll keep your heads. Good point. Clan head and Sun Clan head looked at each other then bobbed their heads. Only then they reacted, who said that? And turned to look. It was better not knowing. They cried out with such fear, one may think they saw a ghost. Zizijua fan, why are you here? Chapter 194, Total Victory. Chapter 194, Total Victory. Who knew when Zhuofang got there? Surely not them. But his seamless interjection in their discussion unnerved them all. Ha, lighten up. I'm the same as you, I came here to welcome guests. Zhuofang waved the awkwardness away with a smile. Though his smile looked dreadfully cold to the rest. It was practically common knowledge 4 houses, Regent Estate included, came here explicitly for Zhuofang's head. Yet, the 4 venerables and the 3 elders were inside trying to break the arrays. All while he was standing just outside for the heck of it. The Sun and Kai people looked at him, feeling his toying with the 7 houses was worthy of applause. Swallowing dryly, Kai Rong ventured a nervous reply, Zijua Fan, I have always had the Luo clan's benefit in mind in all my actions. Hear me out please and leave quickly. If the venerables come out, you won't stand a chance. Oh, I never knew Elder Kai would, after betraying the Luo clan, care so much for me. Ah, I'm touched. Zhuo Fan raised a mocking eyebrow. Kai Rong reddened, feeling the condescending tone, but he didn't snap back. His reply was one of genuine concern. Zhuo Fan, Luo clan's misfortune has come because of you. Why did you come back? I am concerned for your well-being. Don't let your talent go to waste. Quickly escape. Kai Rong was very concerned but still urged Zhuo Fan to leave. Even when facing the demon Archon, who was such a thorn in the 7 houses' side, this third-rate clan's head was filled with uncertainty. Or he'd long since captured Zhuo Fan and handed him over. The Sun clan head was thinking along the same lines. But since youths were rash as usual, their kids couldn't see this logic. Kai Shouting stood with his chest out as he shouted, Dad, he's only a 5th layer of bone-tempering cultivator. Why waste time and just go deal with him alongside Uncle Sun? Get his head and the 7 houses will hail us as heroes, ha. Quiet fool. You know nothing. Kai Rong glared at his son. Sun clan head sneered as well. He didn't know what Zhuo Fan did to get on the 7 houses' bad side, but the old fox in him knew something was up. It was best to stand down until all was made clear, lest he wanted an untimely death. Zhuo Fan raised an eyebrow. Oh? Taking my head you say? That's a good plan. No, that was never our intention. Gesticulating like mad, Kai Rong was on pins and needles, shouting as a foolish child. I promise you we aren't your enemies. Please leave quickly. Leave before the venerables are back. Haha, them coming back. Zhuo Fan's tone was unbridled. I set those arrays and know them like the back of my hand. If even one man escapes, my head. Bam. With a loud noise, a figure flew from Poison Dragon Array, so poisoned that his body had 7 colors on him. His mouth was tight yet black blood kept flowing from his lips, ears and nose. It was hard to figure out who he was, but Kai Rong knew as he cried, Pill King Hall's Elder Yen. Zhuo Fan's cheek twitched. He just got into his role of showing off and then, this guy had to come out just to spite him. Fuming mad, he stepped right before Yen Jinglan. The fearful Elder Yen was only thinking of escaping when he found someone just ahead. But then dread set in when he saw his face. Zhuo Fan? How did you get here? Zhuo Fan's mouth trembled, but anyone could feel the coldness in his voice, the rage boiling deep within. Yen Jinglan shivered. I took advantage of Yen Song not paying attention. It would have been so much better if you died inside. Now your corpse is going to be in pieces. Sighing, Zhuo Fan's lightning wings crackled and shifted into sickles. Yen Jinglan's shock was still prevalent on his face as he fell in 6 pieces, soaking the ground in blood. SSS. Gasping, the others were shocked out of their minds. Now they knew why the 7 houses wanted to end Zhuo Fan so desperately. A profound heaven expert fell apart instantly thanks to Zhuo Fan's skill. Even wounded, how could a bone-tempering cultivator kill a profound heaven expert? Kai Shouting felt weak in the knees, tumbling down. He hated himself for those brash words he spoke just now. Telling his dad to deal with this freak was the same as sending him to an early grave. Kai Rong and Sun Clan head were soaked in sweat. At least, these old foxes had their wits about them from the start and weren't rash. If they had been anything else, their meat pile would soon be joining the elders on the ground. Whoosh. Flashing before them, Zhuo Fan looked quite awkward. Just forget the last part. Alright? Yep, you bet. Don't know what you're talking about, Steward Zhuo. Ha ha ha. Yeah, my ears must be playing tricks on me. The 4 of them shook their heads till they were dizzy. Zhuo Fan smiled. With a second sound, another figure popped out of Poison Dragon Array, but this time, it was Vicious Pill King. He took in the pieces of Yen Jinglan, and the cold-faced Zhuo Fan, catching the gist of it all. Scratching his head, Yen Song giggled, Thanks, Steward Zhuo, for helping me get rid of that one. It would have been much harder for me alone. Elder Yen, you let one escape with your skill? Zhuo Fan smiled coldly. Yen Song's scalp felt numb. Steward Zhuo, I was careless. He was also an alchemist, so... Elder Yen, do you have any idea what I was just about to promise these guys? A head? Ha. So tell me, whose head is it going to be? Ignoring his words, Zhuofan's cold glare stared him down. Shivering, Yin Song knew this time it was serious. Steward Zhuo was flaunting before these guys, but then, his show deflated like a balloon and so did his prestige. Of course he'd be pissed. Swallowing dryly, Yin Song had a cruel smile for them. Steward Zhuo, that's easy. Isn't it just some heads? Aren't there 4 heads lining up for the taking? Good point. With them dead, no one will know about your blunder. Yep. Yin Song smiled and nodded. Kai Rong's group was scared out of their wits. They kneeled and begged forgiveness, while also cursing them inside. What kind of damn unreasonable freaks are these people? What they didn't know was this vicious demon wouldn't have made a name for himself if he was reasonable. Shaking his head, Zhuofan waved. Forget it. Don't scare these shrimps. Elder Yin, what of the other 2? Dead. Yin Song was solemn. Nodding, Zhuofan turned to the 4. All right, take these 4 in. I want to leave them for that snot-nosed brat to handle. And teach him how to be a clan head. Understood. Vicious Pill King pointed and finger at them and the 4 were chained, soon flying behind him as he entered Poison Dragon Array. A ripple spread and the Black Flame Array in the south opened to reveal Luo Yunchang and the rest. Li Jingtian was leisurely walking behind them. Zhuofan eased a breath seeing everyone safe. The battle was now over. Big bro Zhua. Luo Yunhai cried and skipped over for a fierce hug, his tears soaking Zhuofan's clothes. Zhuofan noted with a smile, feeling warm and fuzzy inside. Looking up, he found Lei Yuntian and Captain Pang looking at him with fervent gazes. The 2 nodded and Zhuofan laughed. Old Pang, I'm relieved to see you still kicking. Captain Pang knew what he meant and laughed as well. Steward Zhua, if I am to die, I will do it fighting for the Luo clan. Never will I waste away in training. Then Zhuofan turned to Lei Yuding with a smile. Miss Lei, how are the people I asked you to train? Lei Yuding huffed and gave him a sound slap in return. Zhuofan was stunned. What did I say? But then he saw her teary eyes. Damn you bastard. You finally came back and instead of asking if I was fine you went straight to business? Lei Yuding wailed. Zhuofan blinked. That does make a lot of sense. So he smiled. Ha, Miss Lei, how have you been? Bam. Then another slap graced his face. Zhuofan was now floored. What the hell? I asked how you are, so what's the problem? You want me to pay respects to your whole family? Lei Yuding glared instead. Too little, too late. Reeling from the blow, Zhuofan was almost coughing blood at this point. This girl's too fickle, I can't make sense of her heart. The others smiled at his misfortune. Li Jingtian joined them, never having seen the cunning steward Zhuo so soft-hearted. Shaking his head with a sigh, Zhuofan really couldn't get her. It's best I don't talk at all. When they separated, Zhuofan looked to see Luo Yunchang fumbling towards him with a pale face. Zhuofan frowned. Young miss, are you hurt? Luo Yunchang only locked eyes with him as if to see straight through his heart. Ice-cold hands touched his face as her eyes stared at him with emotion. Zhuofan, welcome home. Luo Yunchang's eyes closed and collapsed in his arms. Young miss. The others were worried. Zhuofan stood there in a daze. The Luo clan was considered his clan since rebirth, but he never once saw it as his home. When Luo Yunchang said those words, they struck a chord in his thawing heart. Chapter 195, Mean Steward. Chapter 195, Mean Steward. The warm glow of the morning sun spilled through the window and into the pink room. Luo Yunchang's eyes trembled open, but the glaring sun's rays made her squint. Young Miss Luo, are you awake? Luo Yunchang turned to see Lei Yuding's servant, Xiao Chui. She was happily bringing in piping hot stew. Luo Yunchang weakly got up as Xiao Chui placed the bowl on a nearby table. Luo Yunchang nodded gratefully for her help. Xiao Chui, where's Sister Lei? Miss and Steward Zhua are in a meeting. She told me to watch over you. She also had me make this stew for you. Zhuofan. She didn't seem to have heard her as Luo Yunchang shivered, having recalled something. She then broke out in a wide smile. Yeah, he's back. I'm going to see him. Slow down, young Miss Luo. You're still very much weakened. Please have this stew first. Steward Zhua isn't running anywhere. I don't care. I want to see him. Luo Yunchang was so excited all the fatigue left her as she jumped out of bed. Xiao Chui sighed, left with following after her out of worry. The two soon arrived before Blackwind Mountains Hall, hearing Zhuofan's familiar voice from within. Elder Lei, how is your cultivation? Zhuofan asked as he browsed the books. Lei Yuntian replied in disappointment, I am muddled and have not advanced one layer in 2 years. But I feel I will break through soon. Muddled indeed. Zhuofan's cold tone cut his frail tone short. But his eyes were still checking the reports, thought it's not your fault. It is hard for someone as old as you to advance. Lei Yuntian forced an embarrassed smile. Steward Zhuo is so blunt, not sparing any feelings. Lei Yuding saw her godfather put on the spot and slapped the table in anger. Zhuofan, where are you going with this? While you were gone for the last 2 years we had to look after the Luo clan. And now that you're back the first thing you do is point fingers. And you? Zhuofan threw a book before her as he spoke coldly. When I came back yesterday you said I cut straight to business instead of greeting you. That I was cold. So I spent all day catching up with what you have been doing over the years. But today I need to resume my role as the steward. Snapping his eyes on her, Zhuofan pointed at the book. I told you to form a shadow corp before leaving to become our hidden ace as well as our eyes and ears in Chanyu. Why is it that all you managed to contact are some small towns and some villages? You didn't place anyone in the capital, not to mention the 7 houses cities. Humph, you think it's that easy? Huffed Lei Yuding, 10 times I've sent people into Hell Valley City, but they were seized every time. Thankfully they were loyal to us and died rather than say anything. Or Hell Valley would have been upon us a year ago. Oh, did you not see how it's done when I got into Drifting Flower City? Zhuofan raised a taunting eyebrow. Lei Yuding spat through gnashed teeth, don't you even start. Just when I was close to forgetting. Steward Zhuo had gone out for the glory of the clan, but never forgot to spare certain someone his feelings, quite carefree I might add. If my men had even half your skills, they would have infiltrated the whole empire by now, even the palace. Whatever you may think, I did it all for the clan. Zhuofan scratched his nose. Captain Pang grinned, adding his 2 cents to smooth things over. Ha, young Miss Lei misunderstands. Brother Zhuo's thinking is unfathomable. I'm sure Brother Zhuo had a good reason for letting those rumors appear. Look, didn't he bring back 2 experts like he promised? And you old Pang. Zhuofan butted in before Lei Yuding could nag some more. Captain Pang was startled and swallowed drilly, feeling cold sweat down his spine. Now it was his turn it seemed. None of them knew the refined Zhuofan who planned to put the Luo clan back on its feet, would be so mean. Because Captain Pang cultivated the wraith art, the vibe coming from him was that of a fiend. But before Zhuofan he was nothing more than a mouse in front of a cat. Although the two were like brothers, Captain Pang still shivered whenever he saw Zhuofan acting high and mighty. Who knows what fault this kid will find now? Brother, I done awesome. Out of all expectations, Zhuofan beamed. He was happy as well while the rest sullen. What did Captain Pang do that is so awesome? Our efforts aren't lower than his. Zhuofan elaborated with a grin, when I gave you the wraith art I didn't even think you'd survive. You not only survived but even exceeded my expectations. Then why the hell did you give it to me then? Captain Pang's face twitched, not knowing if he should be glad or enraged. You gave it to me thinking I'd die? Knowing what he was thinking, Zhuofan patted his shoulder. Haha, don't you worry now. You are reborn as one of Luo clan's pillars. Captain Pang nodded solemnly. Defending the Luo clan had been his aim all along. Having talked with his men, Zhuofan looked at the small figure at the side. The bored Luo Yunhai noticed his eyes and shivered. He felt danger in his gaze as if a viper was out to get him. Big bro Zhuo, I'm still a child. Cut me some slack. Luo Yunhai opened his big naive eyes like an oversized kitten. Too bad this trick didn't fly with a demon like Zhuofan. Grinning, Zhuofan looked like a ghost from the underworld. You rotten brat, how's your cultivation? Why ask when you already know? Luo Yunhai felt a shiver down his spine. Big bro Zhuo, I'm in the 9th layer of foundation establishment. On the verge of breaking through. He also gave Captain Pang a sign who added, Steward Zhuo, young Master Yunhai has only been cultivating for 2 years. To reach such a level is a feat worthy of a genius. Oh, not bad indeed. How many hours a day did you cultivate? Zhuofan nodded with a smile ever present. Luo Yunhai's eyes darted around then raised 6 fingers. 6 hours. Captain Pang was startled, then nodded. That's right, young Master Yunhai cultivated in earnest. Good, then from now on you'll do it for 20 hours a day. Zhuofan's smile was wide as ever, causing the others to gasp. Wouldn't the poor kid die of exhaustion training for so long? Luo Yunhai was dumbstruck. He immediately shouted his complaints, Big bro Zhuo, I'll die. Hardly. By feeding you pills each day, death will long be forgotten. Plus, as the days pass you'll get used to it. Zhuofan laughed. He recalled how his master did the same for him. His lower lip trembling, Luo Yunhai was on the verge of tears, but that would leave me with only 4 hours to rest. What about playing? Who told you you have 4 hours to rest? Raising an eyebrow, Zhuofan added, 2 hours is enough, while the rest is for reading books. How are you going to be a clan head if you're stacked in all the right places except in the head? Luo Yunhai's eyes rolled into his skull and slumped in his chair. The others sighed secretly. Zhuofan wasn't mean to just them but even to children. No wonder he was called Demon Archon in the outside world. Vicious Pill King and Li Jingtian were staying quiet, but hearing Zhuofan's verdict, even they shivered. Then they looked at Luo Yunhai with all their sympathy. Is it a blessing or a disaster? No one can tell. The cruel steward set his eyes on the poor child. He was dead set on making him the Luo clan's next in line. Yet, his future wasn't as glorious as any true future clan head, but one of a miserable childhood. But with Zhuofan's wicked planning and the kid's talent, his future was bound to be limitless. This could be counted as his only blessing. After a few more words, Zhuofan told them to withdraw, leaving only Vicious Pill King and Li Jingtian behind. As for Luo Yunhai, he walked out like a zombie, feeling like the whole world abandoned him. Such a young child was showing such despair. Zhuofan ignored him as he poured himself some tea. Young miss, since you're already here, you might as well come in. Chapter 196, The Four Tigers of Tianyong. Chapter 196, The Four Tigers of Tianyong. With graceful steps, Luo Yunchang gestured Xiao Chui to stay as she entered alone. Her softened gaze had been on Zhuofan all this time. Zhuofan smiled as he rose. Young miss, are you better? Luo Yunchang didn't speak, only nodded slightly. Zhuofan took a deep breath out of awkwardness. He gestured to the other two and smiled. Ha, let me introduce you Elder Yen Song. You will be Luo clan's Pill House Elder. The other is Elder Li Jingtian, the elder in charge of the arrays. As long as he operates the 5th grade arrays, no one can break through them. Blinking, Luo Yunchang now realized there were 2 more people there and rushed to greet them. The elders returned her greeting as well. And yet, Li Jingtian still had pride in his eyes, while Vicious Pill King was downcast. Zhuofan's face turned solemn. Are you perhaps not satisfied? Vicious Pill King was the one who replied, Steward Zhuo, the Luo clan you describe is not at all as we've seen. We just found out that the Luo clan has no elders and that is only around a second-rate clan. Vicious Pill King sighed. What he thought to be a titan in hiding, stronger than the 7 houses, was more along the lines of a damn frickin' third-rate clan. Li Jingtian sighed as well. He could feel the loyalty of this clan, but the reality failed to rise to his expectation by a huge margin. Zhuofan glared at them. I never said anything about the Luo clan's extent when I invited you in. You accepted my invitation of your own free will. But Steward Zhuo, you said the Luo clan is the strongest clan in Tianyong. Are you saying it's my fault? Zhuofan cut Vicious Pill King off and scared him with his sudden reply. Luo Yunchang bowed again. Elder Yen, elderly, first of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude for joining the Luo clan. I know we are a small clan, unfit of your greatness, but please believe me, with Steward Zhuo and you, the Luo clan will become better and stronger. We, the Luo clan, will not disappoint you. If you still want to leave, I will not stop you. Luo Yunchang's heartfelt words touched the two. You 2 old coots better goddamn suck it up. Then came Zhuofan's cold tone. While Luo Yunchang's words were that of a fairy, Zhuofan's were that of a demon wanting to feast on their flesh. You may dislike how weak the Luo clan is, but I promise you, in 5 years I will make the Luo clan rise to the level of the 7 houses. And in 10 years it will exceed them. If you want to leave, hump. Getting into the Luo clan is easy, but getting out will be done through the mud, cold and very much dead. Shuddering, the elders could feel Zhuofan's bloodthirst. Just looking at him they knew he wasn't kidding. If they tested Demon Archon's anger, today may very well be their funeral. Sweating, Li Jingtian and Vicious Pill King dropped to one knee. Young Miss Steward Zhuo, we were only joking. Don't take it to heart. Luo Yunchang was shocked. She may be the young miss, but how could she receive such gestures from the elders? Not to mention, one was in the profound heaven stage and the other in the radiant stage. She rushed to get them up. Please rise, elders, this isn't proper. But Luo Yunchang could do nothing if they refused. Sneaking a glance at Zhuofan, they noticed his ever stone-cold face and lowered their heads. He may be quite courteous to them usually, but when it came to such principles, he was dead serious. If they couldn't appease Zhuofan's anger, their lives were forfeited today. Luo Yunchang turned to Zhuofan and said, "Zhuofan, you." Squinting, Zhuofan spoke, "I will let this matter rest here on account of young miss. But I better not hear of this again. Now leave." "Thank you, Steward Zhuo." "Thank you, young miss." Sighing, the two bowed again and ran outside. It seemed they had to get much closer with this young miss of theirs. She may be frail, but she could keep that steward in check. Our very lives depend on it. Luo Yunchang was left stunned at how quickly the two bolted. She had no idea Zhuofan could control a profound heaven expert and a radiant stage expert. The two experts were like shy kids before Zhuofan. What she didn't know was that if she could control the bloodworm as well as he does, she'd receive the same treatment. Forget about whining, they wouldn't even make a peep. Turning to Zhuofan, Luo Yunchang revealed a broad smile. "Zhuofan, why do I feel you're more amazing than 2 years ago? I almost can't recognize you. But weren't you a bit harsh on them? Sister Lei and the others worked hard all this time. I know, and I am very pleased with their progress. They gave their all and exceeded my expectations." Zhuofan's smile was no longer cruel. Luo Yunchang was even more puzzled now. "Then why did you?" "Haha, as leaders, one must mind both gratitude and show of power. I know how grateful you must have been for their hard work, so when I came back I showed them power. How else would they know who is the leader of the Luo clan?" Zhuofan's eyes were deep. Luo Yunchang hesitated, "But they are family, going through thick and thin alongside us. Must we be so hard on them?" "People change with time. If your power does not change, then you must be wary of everyone around you. Today they may be your most loyal men and tomorrow your worst enemies. Just like how the 7 houses were subjects to the empire at its founding, now they are a danger to it." Zhuofan grinned with cruelty. Luo Yunchang watched him long and stammered, "Zhuofan, you're truly frightening. Will there also be a day when you'll become our enemy?" "Perhaps," Zhuofan chuckled. "I would rather die at your hand than see you as one." Luo Yunchang's eyes flickered. Zhuofan trembled and sighed, "Who can tell what the future holds?" Silence swept the hall, bringing a morbid atmosphere with it. It was now that Luo Yunhai rushed in tears to Luo Yunchang. "Sister, that's not important right now. Big Bro Zhuo wants to kill me. Resting for only 2 hours is impossible." Startled, Luo Yunchang recalled how her brother was the most hard-working of them all. "Steward Zhuo, don't you think 20 hours a day is a bit?" "You don't have to say it, young miss, I am doing it for his own good. A bit of sweat now will save a lot of bloodshed later. Or you can just stop him from following the wishes of your father. Yunhai, stop complaining and follow Steward Zhuo's schedule." Luo Yunchang snapped at the child. Luo Yunhai's eyes rolled into his skull and passed out. Before Zhuofan came, his life was still bearable. Now that he was here, he entered hell. Zhuofan shook his head. Meanwhile, at the foot of Blackwind Mountain, 4 tall and stout figures stood. One was in a blue robe and cowl with a twin mustache and holding a light sword. Another wore a scholar crest and waved a golden fan. His eyes were so calm as if even the world burning wouldn't affect his tranquility. The third man was brash and big, with fiery hair and eyes holding sparks within. One look was enough to tell anyone he was a powder keg primed to blow. As for the last, he was unlike the first 3. He was twice as broad as a normal man. From his bulging muscles, one would instantly consider him a body cultivator. Yet his narrow eyes were quite delicate. Standing there, he looked no different than a firm mountain. The 4 watched the 4 guarding arrays and their eyes shined in shock. No wonder Godfather sent us thousands of miles here to their rescue. This place already houses an amazing figure. The man in blue turned to his side to ask, "What do you think of these arrays?" With a snap, the second man opened his fan and spoke calmly, "The intricacies of these arrays are hard to grasp. But as long as a profound heaven expert or higher is in control of them, not even the 4 of us can escape." "Blast it! Then we've traveled all this way for nothing? They clearly have their defenses up." The red-haired man shouted. The man in blue berated, "Third brother, orders are orders. And they were given by the marshal himself. Whether this place is a volcano or an impenetrable fortress, we still have to go in. Have you forgotten the taste of the marshal's cane when you entered a drunken rave last time?" The red-haired man stammered but remained silent. The man in blue nodded, then cupped his hands towards Blackwind Mountain as he shouted, "The 4 generals under Marshal Dugu extend their respects to Luo clan head." His lofty voice traveled for miles, straight into Zhuofan's ear. His ears peaked, Zhuofan's eyebrow rose. Why has war god Dugu, second of the four pillars, sent his men all the way over here? Could it be? Chapter 197, War God's Advent. Chapter 197, War God's Advent. Young miss, take the kid to his training. I'll go take a look. Zhuofan looked to Luo Yunchang. She gave a nod, then dragged Luo Yunhai out by the ear. The marshal of Tianyu may have come, and despite the ever-present shock, Zhuofan was here to assuage all her worries. Regardless of the magnitude of the coming storm, nothing could last long in the face of Zhuofan's meticulous planning. This belief had evolved into blind faith in the man, a faith deep-rooted in the hearts of all Luo clansmen. Dragged away and through glistening eyes, Luo Yunhai's last cry at Zhuofan was, "Big bro Zhuo, you single-handedly ruined my life." "You twerp who hasn't ever grown hair down there, what ruin?" Zhuofan teased. He turned to look down Black Wind Mountain and took slow steps downhill. With a ripple, the poison dragon array's miasma parted. Zhuofan walked before the four as he sized each one of them. "I am Luo clan's steward, Zhuofan. And sirs. Oh, we are the four generals under Marshal Dugu. Hearing of the Luo clan's peril, he ordered us to rescue you. Greetings, I am Dugu Feng." The man in blue cupped his hands. The man with the fan did as well. "I am Dugu Lin." "Dugu Hua." The red-head stout fellow rumbled a reply. As for the last and the biggest man, Dugu Shan. "Wind, forest, fire, mountain? The four tigers of Tianyu?" Zhuofan cried as he started making calculations in his mind. Smiley face referenced to four phrases from Sun Tzu's The Art of War: as swift as the wind, as gentle as a forest, as fierce as fire, as unshakable as a mountain. He had heard his fair share of stories regarding the renowned four pillars. Second of the four pillars, Dugu Zhantian, was married to his military career. He had no children but four godsons of great bravery and power. Given their talent, they weren't the least bit lacking to the geniuses raised inside the seven houses. Perhaps even surpassing them. The four had repeatedly rendered great military services that earned the people's gratitude in the form of the four tigers of Tianyu title. Dugu Feng, the eldest, was swift as the wind and excelled in surprise attacks, nicknamed Storm Tiger. Dugu Lin, the second, was as gentle as a forest, knowing the art of war by heart. For his calmness of mind, he was known as Crouching Forest Tiger. Dugu Hua, the third, burned like fire, and was just as blazing in temper as well. For his boldness, he was known as Raging Tiger. Dugu Shan, the fourth, was as steadfast as a mountain, hard as stone. Proficient in defense, he was known as Mountain Tiger. No endeavor the four had worked on ever failed. They were almost matching the god of war in their renown. Many times, the emperor expressed his desire to lift them to the ranks of commanders, and joined Dugu Zhantian in becoming Tianyu's 5 marshals, only to refuse each time. They would rather stay as Marshal Dugu's tigers, rather than be alone as Tianyu Empire's 4 lion kings. They were always inseparable from Dugu Zhantian. If the 4 of them arrived, then Dugu Zhantian. Checking his surroundings, Zhuofan's obvious thoughts were easily noticed by Dugu Lin, who tapped the fan in his palm. "Steward Zhuo, there's no need for you to look. We are the only ones here. Our orders carried us thousands of miles to rescue you all. Marshal Dugu and his forces are running a little late, I'm afraid." "Oh, so Marshal Dugu is gracing us with his presence." Zhuofan nodded and laughed. "I understand. Then I shall inform the young miss and young master post-haste. You may return." Zhuofan waved as he left. The 4 were startled, even shocked. The 4 of them were hailed as the 4 tigers of Tianyu everywhere in the empire, with even the 7 houses bound to showing them some respect. But here, in this backwater Luo clan, not only were they not allowed entry, the door was slammed into their face. To top it all off, he even said he'd inform someone. Wasn't this a little bit too absurd? Rage had stirred in the hearts of the 4. Dugu Hua, who had a notoriously fiery temper, cursed on the spot. "What kind of steward are you to act so unreasonably? We came all this way to help you, yet not only you did not show any appreciation, you even slammed the door behind you. That is no way to treat a guest." "Guest, you say?" Zhuofan quirked an eyebrow, turning his head to give them a closer eye. "You're telling me you came to save us and I'm supposed to believe that? We just had a hard battle on our hands not a couple of days ago, with blood and bodies everywhere. Letting you and Mike drown the Luo clan in flames." The 4 gasped. So the steward wasn't slighting them but was overly cautious. That reason was enough to dampen their rage. Dugu Feng cupped his hands again. We are Marshal Dugu's 4 generals. He has always been a frank and open person and we are under strict orders. We are not the enemy here. Are you perhaps doubting Marshal Dugu's integrity? Marshal Dugu is a pillar of our empire in charge of defense, which my clan admires him greatly. Our young miss and young master burn incense and pray every day for Marshal's health, to keep our nation safe. Juefan cupped his hands at the heavens, shouting with zeal just like a true Dugu Zhantian fanboy. His action earned the nods of the 4, even approval points. It's good that the Luo clan holds our godfather in such high regards. It makes our trip worthwhile. Then Juefan flipped his tune out of the blue. His face was cold, his eyes accusingly, and how am I to know you are the real 4 tigers of Tianyu? Have you seen how many copycats have cropped up nowadays? Please look over Marshal Dugu's token. Dugu Feng quickly offered a copper badge. But Juefan didn't even glance at it, only curled his mouth. Like I said, there are many copycats around these days. If you yourself can't prove who you are, what good would a token do? Hey, stop messing around, punk. Us 4 tigers of Tianyu have roamed the empire for so many years, but not once has there been a case of someone copying us. You only have your ignorance to blame for not knowing who we are. You won't let us in, is that it? Want to see how I make my way through breaking those arrays of yours? Dugu Huo barked, having reached his already short limit of his slight patience. Juefan staggered back, putting on a perfect fearful face. See. You now show your true colors and still dare pretend? Marshal Dugu's army runs under strict orders, bearing the love of the people. How can there be such brash people wanting to barge into someone's home in his army? You're no different from bandits. You, Dugu Huo gnashed his teeth. Dugu Feng frowned and shouted, "Third brother, stop nagging. Are you going to stain Marshal Dugu's name by charging into one's home?" Dugu Huo glared at Juefan with burning hatred, but his feet remained in place. Dugu Feng bowed. "I apologize for my third brother's lack of courtesy. Please do not take it to mind, Steward Zhua. Can you trust us now?" Trust? Humph, you almost had me there, but fortunately I caught on to your game. Is that how Marshal Dugu's generals behave, playing the good guy bad guy routine? Flushing red, the 4 were left speechless. Even Dugu Huo found it so embarrassing that he forgot to complain. Juefan snorted, "Didn't you say Marshal Dugu is on his way? We'll just have to wait for him to prove your identities." With that said, Juefan vanished into the poison dragon array, and the miasma blocked the 4's sight. They wanted to shout at him, but he was already gone. The 4 were left downcast behind. Who'd ever seen it coming? They, who were revered even in the 7 houses, were now forced to stand on the doorsteps of some backwater Luo clan. And they couldn't complain either. The clan just went through a hellish battle and their nerves were taut. And best of all, the Luo clan was a die-hard fan of the marshal. How could the 4 burst in and ruin their godfather's image? Sighing, Dugu Huo turned to Dugu Feng, "Big brother, what do we do now?" "What else? Stay in a Wingay City's tavern." "But how are we going to give a full report to Marshal when we can't even get in to assess the situation?" "We'll report facts." Dugu Lin shot Dugu Huo a glare. "Luo clan is more than it seems. It's best we wait for Marshal's personal intervention." The others' hearts chilled, recalling the 4 5th grade arrays, and nodded. Putting aside this place having such astonishing arrays, the fact the order was sent for the 4 tigers to come here was proof enough of the real threat that the Luo clan was under. Yet, even after going through such a gory battle, it was clear from their steward's appearance that the clan wasn't suffering so much. This pointed out that the Luo clan was more than met the eye. Being generals themselves, the 4 could tell of this mysterious clan's power. In another part, Juefan returned to the hall and convened with the rest. Great changes happened throughout the clan as entire rooms were thrown into chaos. He made the 4 tigers back off just so he could make preparations. Since the 4 pillars were here, there was no way they were going to miss this chance of leaning on a great mountain. Yep, it was all about clinging to power. Although, different tactics were needed depending on the target. Juefan's methods weren't as crude and tasteless as those narrow-minded Kai and Sun clans. He wanted Dugu Zhantian to be eternally tied to the Luo clan. Luo Yunchang watched the people rush about as they were close to tearing down the whole of Black Wind Mountain. She turned to Juefan in puzzlement. "What, this?" Juefan said before she could continue, "Young miss, you're just in time. Tell that kid to switch from cultivation and hit the books for the next few days." "Read what?" Luo Yunchang was dazed. Juefan grinned, "Just some matters of circumstances like war books. Not 100 miles out of Wingay City, A wizened man rode his large horse when a sudden sneeze caught him off guard and a shiver ran through him. "Guard, how long until we reach Wingay City?" Everywhere around him was crawling with thousands upon thousands of soldiers. A general close by reported, "Marshal, we will arrive in 3 days." The old man nodded, but the frown never left him. "I have come out of countless battlefields with honors, so why is it that this small Wingay city is putting me on edge?" Chapter 198 Welcoming. Chapter 198 Welcoming. 3 days later Fan was in a small room, checking Luo Yunhai's progress in reading. Suddenly the earth began to rumble like a huge earthquake. Fan raised a brow, focusing his attention outside, only to be shocked at what he saw. What an aura! He is indeed the god of war. Fan rose to his feet and shouted, "Everyone to your stations. The Luo clan's safety for the next few years at stake here." Understood. The men outside the room replied, having already gotten ready as they scrambled. Fan turned to Luo Yunhai with his devious grin, "Kid, you're up now. You better had learned your part." Luo Yunhai's face sank. "Big bro, what do I have to? What do you think?" The room was soon engulfed in Fan's evil cackling. Outside Wingay City, the 4 tigers of Tianyu were already waiting for the orderly and impeccable military procession marching towards them. It was like a dark cloud without an end. The shaking of the mountains was due to the huge army. On the battlefield, any man, even a profound heaven expert, would shudder in face of such might. Leading the army was a huge man on a horse, his beard swirling in the wind. Despite reigning in his power, his mighty air and unbending nature were hard to conceal. He was the second of Tianyu's 4 pillars, marshal of Tianyu's armies, god of war Dugu Zhantian. He was in the 6th layer of the radiant stage, yet the whole of Tianyu considered him the strongest. His 4 godsons were also peak profound heaven experts. Just based on the loyalty of his million men, not even the regent estate would dare slight such a man. Despite regent estate having experts with higher cultivation than him. Once Dugu Zhantian sent an order, his million soldiers were like an unstoppable flood of steel. Even regent estate's venerables would have a hard time dealing with such a barrage. To unite all these weak soldiers, to make them act as one, that was what it meant to be a true god of war. For this reason, the 7 houses were afraid of the marshal, the head of the 4 pillars, Zhuge Changfeng, who told them to allow him to amass such power. In this case, drowning one with numbers couldn't be a more apt description. Generals welcome marshal. The 4 gave a deep bow. Dugu Zhantian nodded. "What's the situation? Is the Luo clan safe?" "The Luo clan is at peace." Dugu Feng spoke heavily. Dugu Zhantian nodded a sigh. "It's good we arrived in time. We did not fail His Majesty. Was there anyone making it hard on them?" Before we arrived, it would seem that the Luo clan had suffered a sneak attack." Dugu Feng mumbled. Dugu Zhantian raised an eyebrow, his eyes staring back at him. "What? Then how are they? What are their losses? What about the attackers? Any prisoners? What of Luo clan head?" Dugu Zhantian shot questions non-stop at the bitter-looking 4. How could they know when the Luo clan had slammed the door in their faces? Dugu Feng braced for reprisal as he reported, "Marshal, we are in the dark." "What?" Dugu Zhantian blew his top. "Then what have you been doing over the past few days, idling?" "Fenger, that's unlike you at all. They've been stationed at the borders for decades to prevent the Chuanrong armies from invading. Yet the emperor decreed him to go to Wingay City's rescue. He knew this matter was of utmost importance. So, on his march here, he sent his 4 most trusted generals ahead to provide timely assistance. Only to find them idling about these past 3 days, and knowing absolutely nothing. And these were Dugu Zhantian's 4 tigers no less. Humph, you must have let the wine get to your heads and caused a scene. I'll settle your punishment later." Dugu Zhantian flared, almost wanting to do it now if not for delaying his rescue operation. Dugu Lin bowed flustered, "Marshal, please hear us out." Having been told the ins and outs of the matter, Dugu Zhantian was staring dumbstruck. "There are 4 fifth-grade arrays in this backwater area?" Dugu Zhantian blinked and started scouting ahead with his soul sense. And sure enough, he found 4 arrays surrounding Black Wind Mountain blocking his search. Dugu Zhantian was shocked. "No wonder the emperor told me to come in person. There must be a mighty figure among them." Sighing, Dugu Zhantian turned to the 4. "Now that you couldn't enter, I no longer blame you." "Marshal, who said we can't? If not for Big Brother stopping me, I would have torn down those damn arrays long ago. Duguho roared. Dugu Zhantian berated, "You're a disgrace. How dare you charge into people's homes without an explicit order? If you had dared charged inside, I would have had your damn head for defying orders." Marshal, I was only venting. Don't take it seriously." Duguho ducked his head in shame. The other three secretly snickered. Dugu Zhantian cut in, "Marshal, the Luo clan steward said he will let us in after you arrived. He must mean for you to personally go inside." Dugu Zhantian burst out laughing, "I have come at the order of the emperor to take a look at this Luo clan as well. But since there's a mighty figure inside, I would also like to meet him." He dismounted and strode towards Blackwind Mountain. "Pass my order. The army is not to disturb the people and are to set camp 10 miles southeast of here." "Understood." The entire army roared while the four rushed to follow him. Dugu Zhantian went next to Dugu Zhantian. "Marshal, that steward is extremely cautious. He will ask a ton of questions and will not hold a polite tone. Please do not get angry when you deal with him." "Humph, you think my temper is short like you rascals?" Dugu Zhantian laughed and Duguho grumbled inside, "Your rage is more explosive than mine." Dugu Lin slapped his fan. "Third brother, that steward didn't do it out of caution. He wants to see the marshal in person. As to why, we shall soon find out soon." "Ha, Linner is the most cool-headed among you and can see things differently. He is right, the Luo clan must have wanted to see me. Then, I will just have to see for myself what's so great about this clan, ha." Dugu Zhantian walked with his domineering air, soon arriving at Blackwind Mountain. "Tianyu's marshal, Dugu Zhantian greets Luo clan head." Dugu Zhantian bellowed. The poison dragon array's miasma dissipated and Zhuo Fan came out. But this time he had a look of complete respect. He bowed, "I am Luo clan steward, Zhuo Fan. Welcome, Marshal Dugu and the 4 generals." "Oh, so you're that steward? I heard you're quite cautious, not trusting even my token in the hands of my generals. Why then do you believe who I am at the mere sight of me?" Dugu Zhantian grinned, clearly mocking Zhuo Fan's earlier attitude. But Zhuo Fan acted the fool. "Marshal Dugu is the god of war. Who dare impersonate you? Even if someone did, none could copy your aura honed after numerous victories, nor the thick killing intent on you for slaughtering countless men. Is there any other true man, a man old but holding strong still in Tianyu? I could feel and hear from afar the might you possess. Only Marshal Dugu is capable of making my energy surge in my veins. My respect to you is like a flood, an unstoppable river, like a never-ending sea, a mighty—" Fine, I get it." Dugu Zhantian cut his rambling short. He wanted to test the kid and see his true intentions, but then he saw him engage in this foolery, going as far as worshipping the ground he stepped on. It was so enrapturing that even he felt a chill and had to stop it. If this went on for any longer, he'd be hurling for days and nights. The 4 were dumbstruck. None saw it coming. Zhuo Fan this time was a thorough ass-kisser, blowing their wish of questioning out of their minds. Dugu Zhantian had seen his fair share of fawners like Zhuo Fan, but never wasted time with any. Whenever they spoke, it was always followed by a long endless string of adulation. Dugu Zhantian took a long look at him. "This backwater town has many experts it seems, even this young steward. I am in awe. Then little brother, is it possible to see Luo clan head?" "He's eagerly awaiting." Grinning, Zhuo Fan bowed and Dugu Zhantian strode forward. The marshal could see this was all arranged by that mighty figure. He could feel getting closer and closer to him. What he didn't know was that mighty figure was that young steward. The 4 generals followed closely, with Dugu Hua jutting his chin and muttering next to Zhuo Fan, "Humph, now do you believe us?" "Of course I was too blind to see your greatness. I beg your pardon." Zhuo Fan smiled. Dugu Lin looked at him deeply but shook his head in the end. He was Dugu army strategist and knew something was off about Zhuo Fan. Chapter 199, My Godfather, My Rock. Chapter 199, My Godfather, My Rock. "Please after you, Marshal." With Zhuo Fan as guide, they passed through the poison dragon array, reaching the peak of Blackwind Mountain. Instead of a lavish clan dwelling, they were greeted by simple gates of a barracks. They could even hear faint cries of kill from beyond. Frowning, the 5 were quite puzzled. What is the Luo clan up to now? With a smile, Zhuo Fan gestured, "Haha, please don't take offense, Marshal. We have just recently gone through a bloody attack and are still tense. Our guards especially training day and night. Will God of War be willing to say a few words to our young blood? The whole clan would be most grateful. Zhuofan bowed again. Dugu Zhantian nodded slowly. He first wanted to know what the Luo clan was cooking up and second to know how deep they hid their assets. For the emperor to view them so highly and pull him from the borders and rescuing a nameless clan, he had to see for himself what they really were. Following Zhuofan through the gates, the five arrived before Luo clan's manor. What had them all in shock was that there were no buildings around, only tents. They looked akin to an army ready for war. That was Zhuofan's ingenious plan was all about. He tore down all buildings for tents to stir Marshal Dugu's sympathy and make him feel at home. With how Dugu Zhantian spent years on end on the battlefields, he'd be more at home in a tent than between four walls. This was also a form of flattery to conform to one's tastes, covert as it was. Sure enough, Dugu Zhantian trembled as he nodded. Zhuofan no longer spoke, having a sly grin on his face instead. They soon arrived at Luo clan's training area, where Captain Pang was in the middle of practice with his guards. Most of them were still children, but their every strike was filled with zeal and their eyes burning with power. They looked strikingly similar to veterans after decades of war. Not even Dugu Zhantian could remain unfeeling seeing such a scene. Just what could those 10-year-olds have possibly seen to harden their gaze? As an experienced commander with decades of war behind him, he knew how to turn a batch of fresh recruits into dauntless warriors. But never in his wildest dream did he expect to see this in a backwater clan. The world was filled with marvels. He was now burning to know who was this great figure behind the Luo clan. Unbeknownst to him, this burning zeal in the eyes of the youths was thanks to the wraith art they trained in. As for those kids whose spirits were crushed, they lay dead, with bones crushed and bodies mauled. What he was seeing were those that came back from the brink of death, standing at the peak. How could they not be dauntless? Marshal, our third-rate clan just went through a disaster and only the surviving few are training now. You must be thinking it's a sorry sight. Zhuofan sighed in faint modesty. Dugu Zhantian shook his hand. No, hardly. The kids may not have cultivated, but their eyes are those of elites. If these are just your survivors, then your main guard unit that fell must have been a monster. How could such a mighty guard ever need rescuing? Zhuofan blinked and smiled. This marshal is pragmatic. I see now why he is acclaimed as a god of war. He is an upright and just man. Zhuofan nodded secretly, having understood more about the marshal's nature. Then Marshal, please feel free to point out some tips. No need. I would not dare show my meager skill before you. Dugu Zhantian laughed. Steward Zhua, I only wish to meet with your clan head. Such a man has set 4 fifth-grade arrays and still trains such young warriors. I'm truly eager to see him. The four behind him were shocked. Marshal was the god of war, with countless figures wanting to meet him. But now it was the other way around. It was he who wanted to see someone else. Just who was guiding the Luo clan? How could the mere training of some guards move the Grand Tianyu's god of war? The four sighed as they turned to look at the guards again. These small few children were indeed far stronger than their own elites. It's no wonder. Zhuofan's eyes flashed and grinned. Since Marshal is so eager, please come with me. Our clan head is also waiting. Zhuofan entered the biggest tent as the others rushed to catch up to him. How could they have known all of this was Zhuofan leading them by the nose? The art of war is of vital importance to the state. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors, to be taken into account in one's deliberations, when seeking to determine the conditions obtaining in the field. These are, the moral law, heaven, earth. Smiley face excerpt from Sun Tzu's Art of War. A bright voice read. Dugu Zhantian's faltered his steps. That's the art of war. Who is reading? Oh, I almost forgot. Young master had been training for 20 hours. He needs some rest. Zhuofan slapped his forehead and rushed in another direction. He was unconcerned about the others following him, though. Dugu Zhantian's group followed either way. They arrived at a small yard where a youth held a bowl on his head and in horse stance. His knees and hands also held a bowl, but the surface of the water was unperturbed. What laid under his bow was a shining dagger. If his legs slacked for even a second, he'd tear himself a new one. Despite the danger, he was still reciting the art of war. Dugu Zhantian was puzzled. Steward Zhua he. Haha, Luo clan's young master, Luo Yunhai. Zhuofan chuckled. From young to old, all of Luo clan admires Marshal Dugu. All of us adhere to military doctrine. Especially the young master who is training while studying, hoping to one day to serve under the marshal. Dugu Zhantian blinked. Why is the clan head of this Luo clan with his impressive soldiers wish to be under me? Everything about this clan is mysterious. Just what are they after? Zhuo Fan probed with a smile. Marshal, will you accept our young master? Of course. If the youth wishes to serve his nation to enter the battlefield. Perfect. Zhuo Fan's yell cut him off. He then pulled Luo Yunhai up. Yunhai, don't just stand there, Marshal Dugu wants to take you in. Go and pour him tea. Right away. Luo Yunhai ran like the wind, like a bird out of its cage. Finally out of that damn position. I almost couldn't take it. Dugu Zhantian felt dizzy. Wait, you're going to make me accept him here? Steward Zhuo, that was... Marshal Dugu needn't say anything. My clan head would be immensely pleased to know you showed such care for young master. You will be grateful for all his life. You may not know it, but this was our clan head's cherished dream. Zhuo Fan held Dugu Zhantian's large hand with tears in his eyes. Dugu Zhantian wanted to refuse, but now he didn't have the heart to go through with it. Isn't it just a soldier? He isn't half bad either. Perhaps he'll earn some merits in the future. It's just taking one extra recruit anyway. Sighing, he nodded in the end. Then a screech came. Marshal Dugu, it's actually you? Luo Yunchang appeared, who knew when and was shaking from excitement. Zhuo Fan's face was twitching. Tone it down on the boasting. Steward Zhuo Shi. Let me introduce you. She is our young Miss Luo Yunchang. Zhuo Fan brought her before Dugu Zhantian and explained what happened. Luo Yunchang's eyes lit up, jumping in joy, completely out of her modest and virtuous character. Zhuo Fan's mouth twitched as he whispered, all right now, don't push it. Luo Yunchang reigned in her excitement, then apologized to Dugu Zhantian, who didn't seem to mind. But the four generals looked particularly close at Luo Yunchang, especially the third brother, whose eyes were practically burning. Zhuo Fan laughed inside. Yep, she is no less than Diaochan. And Luo Yunchang is also a rare beauty. Smiley face fictional character in Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Diaochan is one of the four beauties of ancient China. She is a maid of Dong Zhuo who charmed Lu Bu into assassinating him in 192. Zhuo Fan turned to Dugu Zhantian. Marshal Dugu, taking young master in is the greatest joy that ever graced the Luo clan. Why not make it even better by becoming kin? Kin? Stunned by those words, the four generals looked at Luo Yunchang with blushes. Dugu Zhantian rubbed his beard and looked expectantly at her. I don't know if clan head will agree. No worries, Dad would definitely agree. It is his cherished wish. Luo Yunchang rushed to reply. Dugu Zhantian saw his godson's bashful but hardly refusing. Dugu Hua had it worse, like a volcano ready to blow. Dugu Zhantian recalled how his godsons had fought by his side for decades and thought it was time for them to start a family. So he nodded, since clan head agrees, then I'm more than happy to do it. The four generals clenched their fists, so excited they were trembling. But who was the one to marry this young miss? Zhuo Fan's eyes flashed and showed a sly smile. Luo Yunhai now came with the tea and saw Zhuo Fan nodding. He kneeled as he offered the teacup to Dugu Zhantian. Dugu Zhantian's mind was filled with the joy of a wedding, taking the cup in passing. But at that moment, Luo Yunhai's voice slammed into their ears. Luo Yunhai greets Godfather. Dugu Zhantian staggered as he spat out the tea he just drank. Chapter 200, I want a sister-in-law, not a brother. Chapter 200, I want a sister-in-law, not a brother. What did you just call me? Dugu Zhantian's old eyes bulged and pointed a trembling finger at Luo Yunhai with a shocked face. The four generals were dumbstruck as well. Marshal only agreed to take him as a soldier. How did it jump from that to being a godson? Luo Yunhai had a genial face as he cupped his hands in respect. Is it wrong of me to call you godfather? Yeah, Marshal, didn't you say it yourself that you wanted to be kin? The Grand Marshal Dugu is going back on his word over such a trivial matter? Zhuo Fan secretly snickered. Dugu Zhantian was bug-eyed. It took a while to get over his shock and turned from Luo Yunchang to Luo Yunhai. True, Steward Zhuo only spoke of being kin, not caring to elaborate on its type. For Luo Yunhai to call him godfather was also a type of kin. But since only Luo Yunchang was there at the time, they believed it could only be through marriage. And the next thing they noticed was that Luo Yunhai was kneeling there and offering the teacup. Wasn't his actions clearly done for a godfather ceremony? Sigh, how could I be so careless? Dugu Zhantien rested his forehead and said to Zhuo Fan bitterly, Steward Zhuo, then what you meant by kin was in fact. Yes. Did Marshal perhaps think otherwise? I thought, looking at Luo Yunchang, then at his 4 godsons. Dugu Zhantien sighed in resignation, the same. The 4 generals' faces crumbled with his last words. Zhuo Fan clapped with joy, haha, outstanding. Then young master, hurry and kowtow 3 times to your godfather. Yes. Luo Yunhai shouted, more than eager in his obeisance. Dugu Zhantien sighed bitterly with a shake of his head. He wanted to give his godsons a sister-in-law, only to end up giving them a younger brother instead. He was left with no alternative since he already accepted. If he were to switch facts now and say he wanted the girl instead, wouldn't it be the same as robbing the common people's women? He was Dugu Zhantien, who had an illustrious military reputation, a man pursuing honesty and bravery as well as maintaining a strict order in his ranks. Was he just going to throw it all away just like that? Let it be. With his talent and Luo clan's elite army, in 2 years of training under me, he ought to turn up as another tiger, no? Dugu Zhantien looked on the bright side. His face then turned serious as he looked at Luo Yunhai. Yunhai, today you take me as your godfather, so you must follow the rules of the Dugu house. I am a man that separates private and public matters. Now that you are in the Dugu army and if I am still in armor, you must address me as marshal. Disobey any military rule and I will punish you according to the martial law, no exceptions. Your 4 brothers can attest to that. Yes, godfather. Marshal. Luo Yunhai cupped his hands in glee. Dugu Zhantien nodded pleased, clever boy. Furthermore, as you are now my godson, you are not to shame my name, or your head shall fall. Yes, marshal. Luo Yunhai grinned and shouted. Zhuo Fan smiled and cupped his hands. Congratulations, marshal, for getting another bright godson. I am most certain our young master will not let you down. He then turned to the 4 generals, his smile ever present. Congratulations, generals, you have now an outstanding brother. Young master shall be indebted to you looking after him, ha. Turning from the beaming Luo Yunchang, a fairy upon this mortal world, to the grinning Zhuo Fan, the 4 looked bitter and depressed. Enough blabber. We have enough brothers as it is, millions in fact. We don't need more, all we wanted was a sister-in-law. Dugu Hua had it worse, feeling such disappointment that his eyes glistened with tears. Goddamn wretched Luo clan. You ignited our desires without us knowing and you give us a little brother instead? I feel like crying. I've been in the field of battle for decades and now I don't want to go back. Knowing exactly what they were grumbling about in their minds, Zhuo Fan gave Luo Yunchang a thumbs up as he laughed inside. Who knew the young miss knew how to work her charms? She got the 4 of them hooked without so much as an eye batting. Luo Yunchang stuck out her head in womanly pride and returned Zhuo Fan an enchanting smile. This only worked to fuel the lamentation in the 4 men's hearts. Steward Zhuo, now that I have Yunhai as godson, don't you think it's time I see your clan head? Dugu Zhantien asked. Shuddering, Zhuo Fan sighed a nod. Indeed, I do believe clan head wished he could meet Marshal for a long time. Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang showed sullen faces. Dugu Zhantian's group was startled, following them in silence. Not 15 minutes later they reached a large tent. Zhuo Fan allowed them to enter first. What they saw left them speechless. On the table in the middle of the large tent stood a lonely spirit tablet. It was actually inscribed with Luo clan head's name. Clan head, your most esteemed and revered Marshal Dugu has come to see you. You must be so happy. Zhuo Fan's knees hit the ground, wailing to high heavens. Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang had tears streaming down their cheeks. Unlike Zhuo Fan, theirs was no act, but genuine pain. The loss of their father happened 2 years ago and this spirit tablet was very much real. How could they not feel sorrow when gazing upon the spirit tablet? Dugu Zhantian's group was stunned. They never would have thought the Battle of Wingay City just now was so disastrous it robbed them of their clan head. They had come too late. Shaking his head, Dugu Zhantien and the generals felt their pain, paying their respects as well by burning incense. Their hearts were bleak thinking the clan head died not a few days ago. Steward Zhuo, if you don't mind me asking, are the 4 5th grade arrays outside due to clan head? Dugu Zhantien asked after showing his respect. Zhuo Fan jumped to his feet and held his head high. It is indeed so. Clan head was but a bone-tempering cultivator, but that didn't stop him from reading the starry sky and the land's layout, grasping arrays and alchemy alike. Those arrays were personally placed by the clan head. Clan head was a truly extraordinary man. I see why His Majesty sent me to your rescue. Dugu Zhantian sighed. Regarding the intricacies of a fifth-grade array, not even a radiant stage expert could claim to understand them fully. But as a mere bone-tempering cultivator, the Luo clan head could set 4 fifth-grade arrays. He had to be the genius of the millennium. A pity that he was only in the bone-tempering stage and was too weak to control the arrays fully and repel the stronger invaders. Dugu Zhantian could even imagine clan head's last moments. He sighed, a true pity. If only he was still alive, I would have asked him to join my army as general. He would have been a great help to my army in fighting back the Chuanrong. Zhuofan's eyebrow flickered and clicked his tongue inwardly. Thank God I wasn't stupid enough to say I set them up, or they'd be hauling me to the borders. That would be dreadfully scary. And who was the filth that dared attack the Luo clan, making you suffer so much and even kill clan head? Dugu Zhantian's killing intent spiked. He was only sent here by the emperor to protect the Luo clan. As for the enemy, he had no idea who it was. Zhuofan snickered inwardly, perfect, and sobbed, Marshal does not know how cruel and terrifying they were. We had 100,000 people on Blackwind Mountain, now reduced to less than 10,000. The sorrowful siblings jumped in fright, looking at Zhuofan with horror. Nothing seemed beneath this guy, no act too foul, no ditch too filthy. The siblings thought to themselves. When were there ever 100,000 men on this mountain? Better yet, we couldn't feed them even if there were. Dugu Zhantian was boiling mad. Such bastards slaughtering common folk live in my country? Now that I've returned to court, I will make sure to uproot this evil from our nation and bring it to peace. Please God Marshal, bring justice to the Luo clan. Luo Yunhai bowed. Luo Yunchang rushed to do the same. Please Marshal, bring us justice. Be at ease, I do not tolerate such meaningless slaughter. I will have them taste the fist of justice for you. Dugu Zhantian flicked his sleeve and roared. Dugu Feng grabbed Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang's arms and helped them to their feet. But his eyes never left Luo Yunchang. Ha! Even if Yunhai wasn't my brother, the 4 tigers will never let such criminals live. The other 3 were gnashing their teeth in frustration. That's eldest brother for you. Swift to act. How come we didn't think of it? But there's plenty of chance to pursue her, now that Luo Yunhai is our little brother. They then started crowding around her and extended their clutches, justifying it with sympathy. While their eyes glared at Dugu Feng as if to say, let the girl go. It's my turn. But then Zhuofan passed through and took Dugu Feng's wretched hand as well as the 3 clutches with ardent passion. We couldn't thank the 4 generals enough. Haha, it's only proper. Taking their hands back in annoyance, the 4 still had a smile, but their hearts were vexed. We want to cope a feel of that young miss you got over there, so why the hell a rotten steward butts into our business? Humph, such a killjoy. Watching them with a cold eye, Dugu Zhantian was pondering. As their godfather, I have the final say in not only the peace on Tianyu, but to what lady fits them as well. Steward Zhua, who are they, where do they come from? I will immediately send my troops to flatten them all. Dugu Zhantian bellowed with majestic power. Zhuofan cupped his hands. Marshal Dugu is a true god of war in power and manners. I will be straight with you. One of those fiends was Hell Valley. I am certain that Marshal's army can uproot every single one of them, raze their nest to the ground, restore peace. Wait, come again? Dugu Zhantian stammered, his scalp numb as cold sweat trickled down. Zhuofan held his head high and spoke clearly, it was Hell Valley. Why, is it perhaps difficult, Marshal? Dugu Zhantian's face twitched. Difficult, he says. That couldn't even begin to describe it. Since when was it so easy to act against the 7 houses? He was from the 4 pillars, but he couldn't just up and march on the 7 houses. That'd start a civil war. Dugu Zhantian held his forehead and sighed. I got too carried away with boasting. Who'd have thought the reason why the emperor would send him over was to repel the 7 houses? It was only natural, since only the 4 pillars could reign in the 7 houses of Tianyu. Why didn't you say anything, Your Majesty? Now I can't go back on my word after boasting about it. Finding the hopeful gazes of Zhuofan, Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang for the first time ever, Dugu Zhantian flushed in embarrassment, trying to look elsewhere. Chapter 201 Foolproof. Chapter 201 Foolproof. Old Marshal, would it be possible for us to go with your army when you set out? To cheer you on? Fan looked as guileless as a newborn blinking those big eyes of his. Dugu Zhantian's face froze, slapping himself with his calloused hand, and stammering to find the right answer. He just had to go and brag about getting justice for Luo clan. Now he got his just desert. Just what excuse was good enough to get out of this one? Dugu Lin felt his godfather predicament and said with a roll of his eyes, "Steward Zhua, are you sure it's Hell Valley? Do you have any proof? This is a very serious matter. Attacking the 7 houses without a reasonable charge, the whole empire will rise up against us." "Right, that's my concern as well." Dugu Zhantian recovered quickly and stared on the steward and the siblings as he asked tense, "Do you have any proof?" Looking at each other, Fan and the siblings frowned. The 3 houses' elders and venerables were wiped out. How would they get evidence now? After muttering for a while, Fan spoke, "They fled too fast and left nothing behind." Dugu Zhantian sighed in relief, then gestured at Dugu Lin in appreciation for lifting that rock off his heart. "Since there's no proof, Although... Fan's interjection got Dugu Zhantian on the edge. However fast they ran, their spies, the Sun clan and Kai Rong, our former elder with his son, were left behind and are in our custody. That should be enough proof." Dugu Zhantian hinted at Dugu Lin for help. Dugu Lin was the wisest and most level-headed among the 4 tigers. It now fell on to him to uphold the reputation of the Dugu army, to let this matter die. Dugu Lin shook his head. "A spy of no importance, that has absolutely no relation with anyone from Hell Valley, can hardly be considered proof." "Exactly." Dugu Zhantian shook his head in dismay. "I'm not trying to avoid this, but my hands are tied without hard evidence. Or I would have set out with my army at once, trampling Hell Valley into the ground." Roaring with such zeal, Dugu Zhantian sighed at the end, while giving Dugu Lin a thumbs up on the sly. Dugu Lin gave a covert nod as well. Their OL Marshal was a military man, hating evil to the core, but not a hot-headed one. He couldn't just attack the important 7 houses on a whim. Or it would ruin Tianyu. While Fan couldn't care less. The world could burn for all he cared as long as his enemies perished in the fire. Seeing Dugu Zhantian not easily pushed to make an enemy out of Hell Valley, pointing out one lame excuse after another, Fan frowned. What to do? How can I make Dugu Zhantian and those bastards get in a conflict? Even a minor skirmish is better than nothing. Fan's plan was similar to what he did during the battle in Wingay City. This time though, the grudge between the Luo clan and the 7 houses would shift into the grudge between 4 pillars Dugu Zhantian and the 7 houses. That'll keep Luo clan safe and sound for a few years at least. Fan saw it was far-fetched to get rid of Hell Valley anytime soon and didn't make all these preparations for that. He wanted Dugu Zhantian to be the face of Luo clan and let everyone know they'd have to go through Marshal before getting to them. But this old goat keeps skirting around instead. Fan's eyes darted around in deep thought. "Steward Zhua, our scouts report 3 floating lights above Wingay City. What are they?" Captain Pang burst into the tent. Fan raised an eyebrow and everyone went outside. Up above, 3 lights indeed spiraled in the sky. They had erratic movements as if flies with no way home. "That's a messaging jade slip." Dugu Zhantian was shocked. "Feng, grab them and see who sent them." "Understood." Dugu Feng cupped his hands. But before he acted, a figure flashed in the sky with a rumble. It caught the jade slips and was back in a flash. Dugu Zhantian and the 4 generals were dumbstruck. Fan was just a 5th layer of bone-tempering cultivator yet, could fly as fast as a profound heaven expert. And his lightning wings could turn in mid-air as if alive. It was shocking enough for Clan Head to set up the 5th grade arrays and no one was expecting such a skill from the young steward. One had to wonder what faces they'd make when they realized his speed wasn't limited to match the Profound Heaven stage, and that he had killed many renowned Profound Heaven experts in Tianyu. But since they only now returned from the battlefield, they were still out of the loop as to how dreadful this devoted and fervent servant of the Luo clan was. Chuckling at their reactions, Fan took the lead to look into the 3 jade slips, then he snickered. "Marshal Dugu, weren't you looking for proof? Here it is, hee." Dugu Zhantian took the 3 jade slips skeptical. But when he read them, his face darkened and cursed inwardly. Are these 3 houses packed with idiots? Couldn't they have taken these jade slip with them before leaving? These were Hell Valley, Pill King Hall and Marywood's 3 house leaders sending their orders to their elders and venerables. When a messaging jade slip arrived, only their respective house elder could retrieve it through a specific gesture. In the case when no one was there to take them, the jade slip would float around for 2 hours before finally returning to the sender. It was a pity that these important elders and venerables in Wingay City had long since kicked the bucket. The jade slips floated about idly and Zhuofan took them as the much-needed irrefutable proof to set Dugu Zhantian into motion. Marshal Dugu, is this enough? Zhuofan smiled inside but his face calm as ever. Dugu Zhantian spoke with hatred, enough. Is this proof foolproof? It is. So when can we expect you to charge on Hell Valley? Dugu Zhantian's face was solemn, I will need His Majesty's approval to move the army. Don't worry, I will take the proof to court and definitely bring justice to the Luo clan. Zhuofan beamed, as long as you do it. Marshal, won't it be convenient to deal with Pill King Hall and Mary Woods as well since you're at it? Look, the foolproof also involves them as well. Dugu Zhantian felt a headache coming. Hell Valley is bad enough, now you want those two dealt with as well? Why not repeat history and jump straight to a full-blown war with the 7 houses like the one 1,000 years ago? Dugu Zhantian smiled dejectedly, I will report to His Majesty and abide by his ruling. Oh, that's also fine. Zhuofan nodded. Then he recalled something, but Marshal, since you're returning to the court, mind including one little thing in your report? What, there's more? Dugu Zhantian was speechless. Just how many houses did you step on anyway? Zhuofan scratched his nose, this might be a bit tricky though. We knew they were working behind the scenes but there's no solid proof about them. It's up to Marshal if you wish to mention them. The one behind 3 houses? Oh. Dugu Zhantian's voice trembled. Zhuofan smiled and spoke vaguely, haha, to Marshal it is no one important. But to us, a small clan, it is a colossus. Only under Marshal's wing can we survive. Who exactly are they? Dugu Zhantian was growing anxious. Regent Estate. SSS. Gasping, not just Dugu Zhantian but even the generals were in complete shock. Did the Luo clan poke the heavens or something? Not only offending the 3 houses but even Regent Estate. Dugu Zhantian may not fear Regent Estate, but his losses would be disastrous. His Dugu army was the defense of the nation, how could it be worn down in civil war? What's wrong, Marshal Dugu? Zhuofan blinked his large eyes. Dugu Zhantian hurriedly walked away with his 4 godsons for fear Zhuofan could read his mood. You guys sure are awesome, but I can't make a rash decision in this. I will return to camp and think it through. Oh, why do I suddenly feel so dizzy? Marshal Dugu, if you disregard us, what about the promise you made in front of Clan Head Spirit Tablet to bring us justice? Zhuofan shouted as he showed them out. Luo Yunhai cried, Godfadash Marshal, you promised me? Fine, I am a man of my word. However, let me wrap my head around it first. My camp is only 10 miles from here. With me here no one will bother you. Let's leave it at that, goodbye. Dugu Zhantian cupped his hand in a rush, then ran away. The 4 tigers of Tianyu gave Luo Yunchang one last look then followed suit. They vanished the next second. Zhuofan grinned seeing them gone in a blink. This Marshal Dugu may not want to contest with the 7 houses, but he did promise us safety at least. Big bro Zhua, Luo Yunhai said, do I really have to join Marshal's army? Of course. It is your fortune to be trained by Dugu Zhantian, the man who held the frontiers for decades, with 4 tigers under him. Why don't you do it then? Wasn't he fascinated by your arrays? Zhuofan snorted, as the saying goes, a good man doesn't enlist. Why the hell would I go for? Smiley face points at him being an honest-to-God, faithful and righteous man who does no evil. Or he's one hell of a smart guy to avoid enlisting. Then what about me? Shooting him a look, Zhuofan spoke coldly, you either go with Dugu Zhantian or cultivate 20 hours a day. Army, here I come. Luo Yunhai ran out in fear. Luo Yunchang smiled, then muttered, Zhuofan, what if, making him a godson fails? Would you have married me off to make a tie with 4 pillars? Perhaps. Zhuofan spoke as if it was obvious. In regards to political marriage, using you to get the 4 pillars on our side is as good a move as any. In fact, we'd be the ones truly winning here. We can even go a step further and get the best out of it by having you marry Dugu Hua. He is so impulsive and easy to use. Go to hell? Luo Yunchang glared at him and kicked him off the mountain before leaving in a huff. Zhuofan ate dirt before he got to crawl to his feet and shouted behind her, what the hell? Isn't it all for Luo clan? Besides, what difference does it make who you aren't even marrying? This only worked to fuel Luo Yunchang's rage as she stomped faster. In another place, Dugu Zhantian's group descended the mountain post-haste, in fear Zhuo Fan would go after them with more excessive demands. Suddenly Dugu Lin stopped with a frown. "Marshal, why do I have the odd feeling we've been played?" The others stopped as well, now noticing something was very off about all this. In their trip to Black Wind Mountain, they didn't get anything cleared up, yet ended up with a godson and a heavy responsibility. At the end of the day they were now tied with Luo clan. To the point they'd be fighting 4 houses together. What's going on here? Dugu Zhantian and the tigers scratched their heads in complete loss. Chapter 202 Ant. Chapter 202 Taunt. A fortnight later, Zhuo Fan was patiently cultivating, taking advantage of the short idle time he rarely could afford. He had to handle every little matter in the Luo clan these few days. It was his duty as a steward to make sure everything ran smoothly. Adding to that, he had to look after the guards and shadow corpse cultivation. Thus his own training suffered. Since Luo Yunhai was now Dugu Zhantian's godson, he also had to constantly ferry this young master to Dugu Zhantian's camp and strengthen their relationship. Their interactions were rocky at first, with Dugu Zhantian in a bad mood, but the kid was sharp and slowly started to grow on the old guy. Soon Marshal began treating him like his favorite. Even though he was aware of Luo clan's intent, he nonetheless agreed to it in a moment of carelessness. And they got so close that Luo Yunhai was staying at the Dugu army camp 10 miles out for 2 or 3 days sometimes. It was such a relief to Zhuo Fan to hear this. This pair of godson and godfather finally shows results. Suddenly Zhuo Fan opened his eyes and grinned wickedly. I was beginning to worry I'd have no excuse to get that old man to march on you. But who'd have thought you'd come instead? It doesn't get any better than this. Old Pang. Zhuo Fan got out and shouted. Captain Pang rushed to him and cupped his hands. Steward Zhuo, what do you need of me? Go to Dugu army camp and tell the old man, trouble has come to Luo clan. What, enemy attack? Where? Can I go see? Captain Pang was growing anxious in his rush outside. Zhuo Fan flicked his forehead with a smile. Stop using that excuse. Don't worry about that and just go ask for help. Captain Pang scratched his head, puzzled. But since Zhuo Fan said it, he'd have to follow his order. After all, Zhuo Fan's every move was meticulously made and surely had a good reason for this. As long as they followed his instructions, everything would be all right. Zhuo Fan smiled as Captain Pang ran like the wind. Then he also flew towards Wingay City's gate. At the same time, people started appearing nearby the entrance of Wingay City, people from Veiled Dragon Pavilion, Drifting Flowers Edifice and Sword Marquis abode. Chu Bijuan looked beyond the gates with worry. I wonder if the attack already started. I hope we're not too late. If there ever had been an attack, it had to have happened already with how quiet the city is. However, Long Yifi muttered, Wingay City is forbidden to us from the 7 houses. Shouldn't we scout it first? Everyone turned quiet. They didn't know how Hell Valley and the rest infiltrated the city, but one thing was certain, they didn't just waltz in. If they go in and get discovered, adding to that the possibility of Luo clan being laid in ruins, they would be the ones to ultimately take the fall. With the weakened imperial family they wouldn't suffer much, but the regent estate wasn't that benevolent. They'd accuse them of rebelling with this excuse. They'd fall right in their trap. But they wouldn't know the situation without going in first, and they also couldn't just stay here fiddling their thumbs either. It was hard no matter what choice was made. Sighing, Chu Bijuan tapped her golden dragon head cane. One must do what he has to do. Let's go. She then led Iris and Peony overseers to the gates. Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng nodded, not far behind either. Grandmother may be known as the Lady of Steel, but these 2 men were just as bold as her. They all disregarded the ban and any traps that may be about, going straight through the front gate into Wingay City. Chu Bijuan, stop. A shout came from above and figures blocked their path. On a closer look, they were clearly people from Hell Valley, Pill King Hall and Merry Woods. Chu Bijuan squinted. Valley Lord Yu, what's the meaning of this? We all know why we're here. Too bad you're too late. Yu Wanshan and Yen Buogong's group started laughing. Chu Bijuan frowned. You mean you already? Correct, we knew you'd come to help Luo clan. But no matter how fast you rushed here, could it be faster than the message Jade slips? Humph, I will let you in on a little secret. If my calculations are correct, our forces hidden in the Wingay City had long received our orders and assaulted the Luo clan 2 weeks ago. By now, the Luo clan should be nothing but a pile of corpses, haha. Yen Bagong laughed, soon joined by the rest. Chu Bijuan and Long Yifi were unsettled. It all bore down to imperial family's response. If they were any more passive, the Regent Estate's campaign would go unchecked, with these three houses as their very first targets. In a blink, Drifting Flowers Edifice, Sword Marquis Abode, and Veiled Dragon Pavilion found themselves in an imminent danger. But then, a carefree laughter echoed, "I do hope you can find it in your hearts to forgive me. It seems we have sorely disappointed you. The Luo clan hasn't seen blood for over a month, not even a chicken's." They turned in shock to see a youth with an evil grin plastered on his face, leaning on the city gates. "Zijua Fan." They all cried in unison. Long Jio's group was ecstatic. Since this kid was here, Luo clan's safety was a done deal. And by contrast, Yuanshan's group was filled with dread. Except for Hell Valley's fifth elder, none of them saw Zhuofan before. But having seen the Hell Kill Order, they knew his appearance. Weren't you supposed to be killed on your way back? How? Yuanshan was overwhelmed. Zhuofan snickered evilly, "Oh, you mean those dead bags of bones? They all died by my hands, no exceptions." "That's impossible." Yuanshan's group screamed, not daring to even believe such grievous news. Hell Valley and Merry Woods each sent 2 elders in the 5th layer of Profound Heaven stage, the cornerstones of their houses. Even Regent Estate supplied with 2 peak Profound Heaven experts. Not even a 9th layer of Profound Heaven cultivator could kill them all off, so how could it be possible for a 5th layer of bone-tempering Zhuofan? Zhuofan easily saw through them and smiled. "You call a 5th layer Profound Heaven expert and above strong? Aha, they didn't look like it. From the mental point of view, that is." Zhuofan pointed at his noggin with disdain. "Let's take it from the top. Merry Woods' elders were retards, no question about it. I mean, who the hell closes his eyes when laying in ambush? I had an easy time getting behind them and making sure their eyes forever remained closed. Guess that's where Merry Woods excels at. All the marrying got to their heads till they went crazy." Iris Overseer and Peony Overseer stifled their laughter, while Lin Ruffing was red as a crab. Yen Bagong and Yuanshan threw him a condemning look. "Is that the kind of fools you should be sending? As for Regent Estate, humph, they're too complacent, always looking down on me. You tell me, am I someone to be underestimated? As for the end of all arrogant elders, I'm sure you gentlemen can easily figure it out." Zhuofan flicked his nose. They all approved in their hearts. If Regent Estate had a fault, that would be conceit. Although when taking their power into consideration, that wasn't much of a weakness really. But before a freak like Zhuofan, they'd be no different than lambs to the slaughter. "What of my 3rd and 4th elders?" Yuanshan barked. Zhuofan snickered and dissed him. "Valley Lord, you chill, of course they died too. But you can't blame me for that. Who told them to be ponces? All I could do was fulfill their cherished wish and send them on their merry way together, to never part even in afterlife." What? Yuanshan trembled. He already knew this would be the case, but it was hard to accept this fact until Zhuofan had to spell it out for him. Hell Valley's 5th elder was boiling mad. Zhuofan already robbed his arm and now 2 of his brothers. He was outraged. "Zhuofan, it's either you or me." "Tisish, that's my line," Zhuofan quipped in mockery. Chu Bijuan's group was filled with shock. This was their general reaction ever since they heard 2 elders from Merry Woods got killed. After all, Zhuofan killed 4 and crippled 1 back in Drifting Flower City, having long shocked the world. But then they heard how Hell Valley and Regent Estate's elders suffered the same fate, despite Regent Estate's elders being far stronger than Diamondback Ape. This clearly pointed out the other 2 houses' elders were by no means weak. And even with all that, he killed all 6 of them perfectly, coming out of it without so much as a scratch. This was the real reason for their shock. Especially to Chu Bijuan, who just woke up, finding it hard to cope to a world that changed so greatly so quickly. The revered 7 houses were not only taunted but ridiculed to such a degree. A storm was brewing, one that would shuffle the ranks of the 7 houses. Chu Bijuan's eyes trembled. Her gaze was fixed on Zhuofan, however, as they glinted. Chapter 203 Borrowing Power. Chapter 203 Borrowing Power. "Zhuofan, you rotten punk, today I will bury you." Wailing like a banshee, Yuanshan glared at Zhuofan with bloodshot eyes. Yen Bagong and Lin Ruffing were also releasing their bloodthirst. Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng held their guard up. Since Zhuofan was safe, of course they'd to jump to his rescue. The same thought ran through Chu Bijuan's mind as well. 4 drifting flowers edifices benefit, Zhuofan had to come out unharmed. It all became a standoff in an instant, as 6 house lords surrounded Zhuofan as they were on guard regarding each other's reaction, each out of their own selfish desire. Meanwhile, Zhuofan was peachy, taking but a light jump backward and through the city gates. He then pointed at Yuanshan and taunt, "You old farts, come and get me if you have the guts. You won't get to touch a single hair of mine regardless of where we'd been. That goes especially here in my domain. Well, any takers?" Zhuofan. Yuanshan had long lost his patience with Zhuofan's taunts, roaring as he charged after him with the others. With so many profound heaven experts burning to eat his heart out, even Zhuofan felt somewhat overwhelmed. Chu Bijuan's group rushed to block them, but Yuanshan's team were long since prepared. Rainbow Cloud Palm. Yen Bagong was the furthest behind, turning around and spreading his arms. The 7 colored mists flew at Chu Bijuan and others, making the stop and withdraw in panic. Split up. Haha, quite clever. Yen Bagong laughed with pride. But seeing the rest of Yuanshan's group going after Zhuofan, the anxiety ramped up in Chu Bijuan. Regardless how outstanding Zhuofan was, or how many profound heaven experts he got under his belt, none of them believed it to be from a head-on fight, but earned through cunning and subterfuge. This time Yuanshan's team was all going after him. In this desperate situation, even with Zhuofan's godly skills, his chance at life would be slim at best. Yet for some odd reason Zhuofan's was as relaxed as ever, even having time to throw them his trademark evil grin. This sounded off an alarm in the enraged mind of Yuanshan. As to why, he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Whoosh! Suddenly, with a booming sound, a bluish light landed smack in the center of Windgaze City's gates. Yuanshan's team was in mid-flight when a wave of bluish power erupted from the light and sending them barreling. When they recovered, they looked upon a 10-foot-long bluish crescent blade, having 7-foot-long hilt engraved with a blue dragon and a 3-foot-long blade shooting blinding red rays. It spoke of its thirst of tasting the blood of everyone it touched. And on the blade was a shimmering silver dragon image. Yuanshan's team cried in fear, 6th grade spiritual weapon, dragon-slaying crescent blade. Haha, Yuanshan, I didn't think you'd recognize my trusted battle companion. An aged voice boomed, followed by Dugu Zhantian floating next to the crescent blade. Picking it up as if it was nothing, the blade started ringing out dragonic roars. The 4 tigers of Tianyu brought Luo Yunhai to Zhuofan. They were glaring at Yuanshan's team, releasing their imposing auras all the while. Scalp numb, Yuanshan never considered this scenario. For Tianyu's great marshal, god of war Dugu Zhantian, to descend upon Windgaze City, a backwater town. Chu Bijuan's group were slack-jawed from the sudden turn of events. "Marshal, this is between us and the punk. I hope you won't meddle." Yuanshan's brow trembled, his mood sinking dangerously low. Making a half-swing with the blade, Dugu Zhantian roared, "Ha, that's rich. The Emperor ordered me to defend Windgaze City, and you're implying your casual words carry more weight than His Majesty's? Humph, Yuanshan, the 7 houses' prestige must have gotten to your head and forgot your place." "What, the Emperor's edict?" Yuanshan shuddered, his face white as paper. The hearts of the other house leaders hit rock bottom. The whole purpose of Windgaze City operation was to test the imperial family's bottom line. If the Luo clan fell to ruins and the imperial family gave a cold shoulder, then they'd ramp up their already obnoxious arrogance to swallow whole every other houses while completely disregarding the imperial family. But now they met face to face with God of War Dugu Zhantian of the frontier. This was Emperor's warning to the 7 houses, to stay in line. This time they really went and groped a tiger's butt. Yuanshan sighed, filled with grievances. He didn't want to grope anything, but the Regent Estate made him. Now that the tiger left the mountain, Regent Estate would shirk off the blame, falling in the background while letting them take the fall. The Emperor would then make a harsh example of these 3 houses. The 3 house leaders looked at each other's eyes, ready to explode in tears. Chu Bijuan's group was elated at their misery. For the first time in a century, the imperial family stood their ground. This should curb Regent Estate's arrogance in the future. At the very least, it would greatly delay their plan to swallow the 7 houses. Grumbling, Yuanshan cupped his hands, "Marshal, knowing that you stand guard at Windgaze City, I shall not cross into it. However, Zhuofan killed many of our elders and even crippled my 5th elder's arm. I ask that you hand him over for us to handle. This great favor will one day be repaid by our 3 houses." Since Goen and Wingay City was out, ripping Zhuofan apart wasn't that bad of a trade-off. Frowning, Dugu Zhantian turned his incredulous eyes to Zhuofan, as if seeing him for the first time. Is what he said true? The 4 tigers of Tianyu were also looking at him in amazement. At first they were impressed such a youth could hold the position of steward in a clan. It was a rare occurrence indeed. But who'd ever stop to think that this kid was so incredible, so outrageous, that he would kill so many of 7 houses' elders? Perhaps telling them now that Zhuofan didn't just stop at killing elders and went a step further in slaughtering Regent Estate's second young master, might perhaps cause their brains to stop working. Well, Zhuofan was caught in the middle. So he chose another path, that of pulling Luo Yunhai forward and cursing at Yuanshan. What are you droning on about? Do you know how close we are with Marshal Dugu? How dare you have such gall as to ask Marshal Dugu to hand me over? That is outrageous. All were too dumbstruck to even reply. Dugu Zhantian had lived his life by the blade, fighting day in day out on the border. You have no relation to him, 0. So how damn close could you possibly be? Then came Zhuofan's laughter in response to their thought. He patted Luo Yunhai's shoulder. Humph, bunch of ignorant fools is what you are. Our young master is Luo Yunhai, Marshal Dugu's 5th godson. Say what? The dull and shocked stares creaked towards Dugu Zhantian. The grand and mighty god of war, second of 4 pillars, Dugu Zhantian, just up and took a third-rate clan's young master? Could this relation get any more inappropriate than this? Despite being done in a not-so-honorable way and barely a half a month old, Dugu Zhantian was forced to nod. What a shocker. For Luo clan to hug such a big tree was like a pheasant turning into a phoenix. Regarding fame, Luo Yunhai would be no less than at the level of the 7 houses' geniuses. Kid, don't push it. Knowing where Zhuofan was going, Dugu Zhantian gave the brat a warning. Zhuofan chuckled in response, borrowing the man's power to lay it down even thicker. Yuanshan, you got any idea who I am? I'm the great Luo clan steward, the trusted aide of young miss and young master. Asking for Marshal to hand me over is the same as asking for my young master, the same to having Marshal hand over one of his 4 generals. Now you tell me, will Marshal ever agree to that? Will young master? Will our million-strong Dugu army? That had the expected effect of driving fear into their very bones. Just how did a simple matter got a million warriors in the mix? Oh, this guy would stoop to anything. Furthermore, you even dare ask Marshal to hand me over? Humph, how then are your houses going to answer for the slaughtering you did in the Luo clan not a few days ago? Zhuofan held his chest with pain in his voice. He cried and he sniffed. Oh, my poor 100,000 unfortunate souls of my clan, how could you maniacs have robbed them from us? Yuanshan was holding back the blood threatening to come out. The Sun and Kai clans acted as his eyes and ears in Wingay City, so he at least knew the basic facts about Luo clan. What 100,000 men? Your third-rate clan never had them. Stop talking rubbish. Not even the 7 noble houses has that many people. The cheeks of every one there started twitching and dark clouds loomed over their faces. Even Long Yaifi, who was the most friendly with Zhuofan, scratched his head dazed. I get you're framing them, but can't you be a bit more realistic? Oh, but Zhuofan was just getting started, raining charges on the poor blokes. Outside of the vile and inhuman slaughter you've lowered yourselves to, your greatest crime is disobeying Tianyu's most brilliant, wisest, amazing and sacred Holy Emperor. Our Holy Emperor had explicitly stated this area banned for the 7 houses, but you dare come throwing it in chaos. This is no longer disobedience, but plain insurrection. Marshal Dugu, as the nation's most esteemed patriot, how could you ever allow such conduct to take place before your very eyes? You must strike at once, take their heads and make them pay their crimes. The Emperor would certainly not punish you for ridding the empire of this foul beasts. Yeah, Godfather, I shall go bring the soldiers here to crush Hell Valley and protect the sanctity of our Holy Emperor, your patriotic heart, the people's hope. Striking while the iron was hot, Luo Yunhai cupped his hands and asked Dugu Zhantian for permission to go fetch the million-head Dugu army. Dugu Zhantian felt like cursing right now. How did these 2 brats' topic ended with sicking the army on Hell Valley? This isn't a joke, but the start of civil war. Yuanshan's team was dumbfounded. Their demand was perfectly reasonable, to settle their grudge with Zhuofan. How did it degenerate to making Dugu Zhantian going after them and even sending the million-strong army for their heads? Yuanshan looked at the rest and saw that everyone was sweating buckets. If these kids spurred Dugu Jiantian long enough, those brats would really get to make him send the army to uproot the millennia-long foundation of Hell Valley? Damn. I had a good laugh. Though it made me wonder why on novel update this novel is rated so low. Like 3.7? Are we even reading the same novel? Well, maybe they were reading the MTL version shared online, which means they don't even understand the humor. Though what do you guys think? Chapter 204, The Dispossessed. Chapter 204, The Dispossessed. Marshal Dugu, you mustn't go believing these brats' nonsense and look at things from another perspective. Civil war, people dying left and right. I'm sure you want to avoid that from happening. Yuan Shan rushed to cup his hands to Dugu Jiantian and spoke anxiously. The others from his team watched tense for any change in Marshall's expression. If Dugu Jiantian was going to storm Hell Valley, then the next to follow would be their houses. The atmosphere suddenly took a heavy tone, making it hard to even breathe. Dugu Jiantian stroked his beard, and when Zhuofan saw him move his arm dismissively, he jumped in action. Humph, Valley Lord, you, the nerve on you to dare command Marshal who to attack and who to hand over. You must already be taking those million soldiers as yours. Yuan Shan sent all his hatred in his glare at Zhuofan. He would have long since jumped Zhuofan and killed this thorn in his side by now if Dugu Jiantian wasn't there to help it. Funny enough, Dugu Jiantian's mind worked the same. He was clenching his fists wishing he could beat some sense into this egotistical parvenu for using his army. Only Emperor's edict to protect Luo clan stopped him from chalking the life of this damn punk. My army is not Hell Valley's and it's most certainly not yours. You damn steward, who do you think you are to represent my army when trying to show off? You even go as far as threaten the Grand Seven Noble Houses. Are you dying to start a civil war? Thank God for Zhuofan. Yuan Shan and Dugu Jiantian had no clue of the other's thoughts or they'd be shaking on it while putting an end to the kids' play. Yuan Shan took deep breaths to push down the anger and bring out the calm. He chose to relinquish his house lord's demeanor and cupped his hands, speaking in a difficult tone. Marshal Dugu, let us all just take a step back. Since you defend Wingay City, we won't dare to intrude. As for Zhuofan, we don't want him. I am willing to do this for you and forget about today. What do you say? Valley Lord, that punk killed, Fifth Elder shouted, but Yuan Shan snapped, quiet, can't you see Marshal Dugu is in charge here? Fifth Elder turned from Dugu Jiantian to the mocking Zhuofan and stormed away outraged. Understanding where Hell Valley was going and not wanting to see this spiral further out of control, Dugu Jiantian sighed with a nod. While all people there wanted love and peace, there was one who burned to see the two sides like oil and water. So he butted in just as Dugu Jiantian was about to conclude this affair with a laugh. Valley Lord, you must be dreaming if you think you're getting away that easy. Have you forgotten the 100,000 men you killed in my clan, those pitiful lost souls unable to find peace? Shut up. But Dugu Jiantian and Yuan Shan snapped at him in unison. Reeling, Zhuofan knew when to quit, so he quietly stood there, not making even a peep, like an angel. His action made others feel mortified. This kid will stoop to any low, uncaring of appearances, a true parvenu. His talent is a damn waste as a steward. Dugu Jiantian stammered. He saw Zhua turn from a biting dog into an adorable kitty, as if all that brash talk was not said and was lost for words. In the end he cupped his hands. Yuan Shan, then we shall let this matter rest here. However, I do feel the need of reminding you, Valley Lord, this empire is under you and ruling, not your backyard. I shall keep in mind Marshal's counsel. Farewell. Yuan Shan gave one last salute and left with the others. Yet just a few steps after, his eerie tone came. Marshal, on your way to Wingay City, have you perhaps met some of my men? Dugu Jiantian was about to shake his head. Zhuofan's eyes sparkles like stars and grabbed hold of this golden ticket with a snicker and stepped up. Valley Lord, Marshal's 4 generals are of immense valor, how could they waste time on nobodies? Haha, I urge you to get back and look after their families, and put a stop to your men's reckless behavior. Wingay City isn't a place where you can come and go as you please. Yuan Shan spurted blood, his eyes bloodshot. Dugu Jiantian, you are truly vicious. I will remember this debt. He only wanted to ask Dugu Jiantian what happened to his men hiding in Wingay City. But the marshal had came after the battle and had no clue what transpired. Zhuofan picked up on his intention and cooked up an ingenious reply. To Dugu Jiantian this line was vague. He thought it was only a warning to Yuanshan to not make trouble when he had 4 strong godsons by his side. However, Yuanshan's team heard of the implied meaning. The 4 generals' valor of disregarding Hell Valley's men were actually hinting at the fact that these 4 amazing godsons handled their men hiding in the city. But the next phrase really took the cake, pointing it out that Dugu Zhantian commanded the execution of all of them. The eyes of the 3 house leaders went bloodshot, their nails biting into their hands. Zhuofan predicted that the 3 men would pointedly shift their anger from Luo clan onto Dugu Zhantian. How could any of them ever forget a heavy loss of 3 elders and 3 venerables? Marshal, everything must be done within a limit. But you have grossly crossed it. Yuanshan snorted and shot into the sky, leaving his last words of hatred behind. Dugu Zhantian, I pray we'll meet again soon. I doubt such a senile fool can be a god of war forever. Hey, did you see, Marshal? You just let them go and all they give in return is spite. Zhuofan honked some more. Dugu Zhantian and his generals were lost, not having a clue of being turned into patsies by Zhuofan. How odd, why is there a sudden grudge between us? Dugu Zhantian frowned but couldn't make sense of it and sighed with a shake of his head. There are no longer men with any integrity around. I knew that teaching them a lesson was better. Dugu roared. You're right, third brother. How about you lead the army and I accompany you in flattening them? Alright, that's enough. Yunhai, what did I tell you? Don't use my banner to show off and pick on the weak. Dugu Zhantian glared at Luo Yunhai then cursed, is the Dugu army that easy to mobilize? Luo Yunhai lowered his head not daring to speak again. But that didn't stop Zhuofan's smile of respect. Marshal is wrong here. How can the 7 houses be considered weak when we are the ones being picked on? Dugu Zhantian was startled. He has a point. But then he reacted and glared, and you, Steward Zhua, it almost settled before you started speaking, always mocking and inciting them. You, the dispossessed, the weak, just angered the strong until they coughed blood. This launched everyone in a fit of giggles, especially Iris and Peony overseers. They hid their smiles as they started recalling the fake song Yu's acting in Drifting Flowers City. Zhuofan shrugged and kept his thoughts to himself, lest he became the target of the OL Marshal's anger. Sighing, Dugu Zhantian calmed the rage in his heart, then cupped his hands to Chu Bijuan's group. I know that you are different than them, coming to resolve the situation and not make it bigger. But I am under imperial order and I can't let you in Windgaze City. We understand? Chu Bijuan returned the gesture. Dugu Zhantian nodded and went to his generals, return to camp. Hold on, Marshal. There are matters young master needs to tend in the Luo clan. Can he? Dugu Zhantian nodded to Zhuofan. Alright, the kid got me in a foul mood so I will hand him to you for today. Humph, I don't want to see him right now. Then he vanished. Luo Yunhai's face sank. Big brother, does Godfather hates me? Haha, relax 5th brother, Marshal is only putting a tough front but he's a softy inside. He just favors you too much to stay angry for long. Once his anger passes it'll be fine. Dugu Lin smiled in midair. Luo Yunhai relaxed. He had been robbed of his father early in his life and started to consider Marshal a father figure after spending so much time with him. Ruffling his hair, Zhuofan drew him to Long Yaifi, Chu Bijuan and the rest. Ha, people, long time no see. You've come to help us? You can rest easy now since everything is fine. With little brother Zhua taking charge, the Luo clan will be forever safe, ha. Long Jiao said then introduced, brother, let me present to you our pavilion lord Long Yaifi. And here is Sword Marquis Abode's abode lord. Zhuofan had Luo Yunhai pay respects alongside him as Long Jiao introduced. When it was Chu Bijuan's turn, Chu Bijuan nodded before Zhuofan could bow. Qingqing was right about you, Steward Zhua. A man mighty in pen and sword is worthy of being Drifting Flowers Edifice's son-in-law. Zhuofan shook his head bitterly seeing the odd looks in everyone's eyes. Chapter 205, Friend from Afar. Chapter 205, Friend from Afar. Grandmother, you can't be speaking so casually, some people might misunderstand. Squinting, Zhuofan's tone dropped. My trip to Drifting Flower City was all for the Bodhi Jade Sap. It had nothing to do with Chu Qingqing. Please refrain from speaking such falsities in the future. Chu Qingqing was startled. Drifting Flowers Edifice isn't some scourge, so why do you insist on keeping your distance? And what's not to like about Chu Qingqing? She is a worldly beauty that has countless men treating her like a goddess. Long Yaifi and the rest were also puzzled. You just got a hot wife thrown in your lap, so why on earth are you stepping aside? You aren't fed poison anyway, so what's with that huge reaction? Peony Overseer's temper flared, cursing him. Zhuofan, Qingqing's love is wasted on you. How can you be such a disappointment? Humph, disappointment you say? Zhuofan stuck out his chest and bellowed, I was the one who saved all of Drifting Flower's edifice, this old crone included. I owe you jack squat. Peony Overseer was now shaking out of rage. His words were right and she had nothing to say despite wanting to. Chu Bijuan's face twitched. She had had her fair share of travels in her youth, but never once met someone so brazen to curse her in her face. Especially not by a young pup. The Lady of Steel wasn't one to take that tone lying down even if they were from the 7 houses. Letting a snot-nosed brat off without teaching him a lesson would let others believe the Drifting Flowers edifice was a pushover. But Zhuofan was different. Since she woke up, all she heard were endless dreaded rumors about this legendary youth. And today she saw him playing Hell Valley and Dugu Zhantian like a fiddle into jumping at each other's throat. Getting on the bad side of such a sly and vicious fellow would end in disaster. The wise Chu Bijuan knew who was easier to push around and save her prestige and who was better left alone and bear the brunt instead. It was crystal clear in what category Zhuofan fell into. Her only choice was to bear it, though she was quite curious to know what nerve did this topic struck to irk him into flaring up at any who mentioned it. Humph, heartless rat. All the Peony Overseer could do was curse him. Zhuofan ignored her all the same. Long Yifi let out a wry chuckle trying to mediate the situation. We're all on the same side. Must we get angry over something so minor? We need to focus on the task at hand and remove the danger our 4 houses face. Pavilion Lord Long is right. Please forgive my rude remarks, Steward Zhua. Chu Bijuan smiled. Zhuofan glanced at her and secretly nodded. No wonder people started calling her Lady of Steel, she was quite amenable. The issue had nothing to do with her, but for Drifting Flowers edifice's sake she was willing to take one for the team in being first to extend an olive branch. Zhuofan wasn't unreasonable either, bowing, please forgive my rash behavior as well. Chu Bijuan nodded with a smile of praise. Although Peony Overseer was still too pissed to look him in the eye. Seeing everyone here today, I can only assume you have agreed to join hands. Zhuofan suddenly took a somber tone, that would imply us 4 houses' objectives have aligned. Or more aptly put, we have been pushed into a corner and forced to ally. Precisely. Chu Bijuan picked up where he left. Pavilion Lord Long with Abode Lord Xie and myself have participated in the 7 houses gathering at Regent Estate. As Steward Zhua had suspected, they wish to rule over all the houses, with Hell Valley and the others already standing on Regent Estate's side. Oh, 7 houses gathering you say? Do tell me the details. Zhuofan's eyes glimmered. Chu Bijuan started recalling the meeting in minute details. Whatever she had missed were supplied by Long Yifi and Xie Xiaofeng. Having understood what transpired, Zhuofan paced around with a frown. I was wondering why Regent Estate didn't come to Winggaze City. I see it now. Estate Lord sure is a man of character. Humph, what character? Big Bro Zhua sending Hell Valley and the rest instead paints him for the coward he truly is. Luo Yunhai mocked. Zhuofan laughed. Rotten brat, guess I have to teach you a harsh lesson, lest you encounter an expert from which you'd suffer dearly. As the saying goes, the cruelest are the regents. I killed one of his sons, yet he did not fly into rage, only sending experts to kill me in Winggaze City. In this manner he is rather calm. He did not seek revenge but planned to test the imperial family's limit. It is clear this man's ambition is great. This is how a man should act when he wants to look at things from perspective. Kid, you will become Luo clan head one day. I won't say anything about being strong or having a cunning mind, but one thing you must never forget, to give no quarter. Zhuofan snickered and patted Luo Yunhai's head. They all felt ashamed. Did anyone guide their young master in such a way in this empire? But one thing was certain, Zhuofan's logic made complete sense. In this cruel and harsh world, things like compassion would only drag one down. Chu Bijuan took a long look at Zhuofan and nodded, more to herself. Zhuofan pondered for a bit before saying, currently the imperial family has shown their stance, so we should be safe for now. While the Luo clan, having Marshal Dugu on our back, is in an even safer position, ha ha ha. Zhuofan cackled to the speechless audience who thought, just what rotten luck did this guy stumble upon to get Dugu Zhantian's support? Brother Zhua, when did you get so close to Dugu Zhantian? I've been in Windgate City for years and never heard of this. Long Jio's curiosity got the better of him. How should I put this? Zhuo Fan jutted his chin, while Luo Yunhai's face beamed with pride. He was quite frankly the second coming of Zhuo Fan in this world. The others' faces twitched. He's posing again. And there's two of them now. Haha, we only met Marshall half a month ago. Getting so close in such a short time is evidence in and of itself. That nothing is impossible for me. Zhuo Fan snickered. Luo Yunhai added with a creepy laughter, that is because I am of unmatched talent. It was only a matter of time for one such as I to find myself as Godfather's disciple, ha. The others felt dark clouds looming overhead. Zhuo Fan is a bad influence. Be that as it may, the grand god of war had nonetheless joined their fold in but half a month. This was unprecedented. Chu Bijuan felt the brunt of the news the most. She had ties with every great clan out there, but never had she succeeded in turning any of them into a strong friendship. Her impression of Zhuo Fan went up a notch. No wonder he became a steward. He knows the ins and out of everything. He considers everything when making a choice. Perhaps not even unwanted contriver can match his meticulousness. For a third-rate clan to jump in the first-rate category through a single connection is unheard of. With Zhuo Fan as steward, the Luo clan will most definitely rise above the 7 houses. A pity he is so set against marrying into Drifting Flower's edifice. Chu Bijuan lamented. Since Luo clan is so outstanding, then should we stop supporting the Luo clan? Having enough of Zhuo Fan being a wise ass, Long Yifi decided to play a practical joke. What? The snicker froze on Zhuo Fan's face. He then spoke in all seriousness, to be completely honest, Luo clan is lacking in resources. What Veiled Dragon Pavilion provided us so far was just a drop in the bucket. In any case, we 4 are now allies. Will the other 2 houses be willing to lend a helping hand and get this third-rate clan to rise above? Haven't you taken a year's worth of income with the ingredients you took the last time you were in Drifting Flower City? What more do you want? Peony Overseer glared. Zhuo Fan smiled wryly, yet not denying, those are just ingredients for alchemy. Besides, don't we deserve at least some thanks for saving your house? How can you call that support? You damn rogue. Peony Overseer huffed. Chu Bijuan chuckled. Haha, with all 4 of us in the same boat, the Luo clan will be our biggest ally. Helping you is helping us. Drifting Flower's edifice will henceforth settle the Luo clan's ingredient problem. Grandmother, you are wise beyond your age. Zhuo Fan gave a thumbs up. Xie Xiaofeng smoothened his beard. Sword Marquis's abode is specialized in tool refining and has many ores. Then we shall supply you with the items needed to make spiritual weapons and demonic treasures. Zhuo Fan's eyes shined and laughed inside. Luo clan had many guards but no weapon or armor to fit them with. He had lately been thinking of who to rob and solve this little snag. Damn that Xie Tianyang. Did it hurt to not tell me this sooner? And you call yourself my brother? Zhuo Fan cursed. Long Yifi twirled his mustache and shrugged. I guess Veiled Dragon Pavilion will handle the rest. Oh please, who else is there? You're the best merchant in Tianyu. Zhuo Fan perked the corner of his mouth. That sent everyone into a laughing fit. With this, they all began to see Luo clan as a dependable ally. They were yet unaware what the Luo clan would grow into, but with Dugu Zhantian shading them, it was worth investing in them. Luo Yunhai felt the clan would experience a golden age with how many resources were coming over and was laughing at the sky. It's good to have friends coming from afar. Iris Overseer praised. He is quite clever, knowing how to gauge a situation. While all smiled, Peony Overseer was snorting at Zhuo Fan. True, he is a clever little child and with proper manners too. Unlike someone else we know. She then said to Luo Yunhai, tell me, do you know what that means? Of course. Big Bro Zhuo had made me study many books these few days to last a lifetime. Luo Yunhai laughed as he explained, the more brothers that come, the more I can exploit. A true joy dash. What? Zhuo Fan covered his mouth before he could finish. The other looked at him with dark faces, boring holes into him. I am just a steward and not good at teaching. Zhuo Fan blinked his large eyes in embarrassment. The others' faces twitched. On the contrary, you're too highly qualified. One thing was certain, this young master was a lost cause, having been through Zhuo Fan's rotten hands. Chapter 206 Leadership. Chapter 206 Leadership. After ironing out a few more details regarding the alliance, Zhuo Fan and the rest parted ways, taking Luo Yunhai back to Blackwind Mountain. When he stepped through the gates, he shouted, "Old Pang." Captain Pang just returned and was already rushing to Zhuo Fan. "Brother Zhuo, orders? Call everyone handling clan affairs over." Also, taking a long look at Luo Yunhai, he whispered something in Old Pang's ear. Old Pang nodded and went straight to it, leaving a clueless Luo Yunhai staring at Zhuo Fan. Shortly after, Luo Yunchang, Lei Yuntian and the rest clan officials gathered in the meeting hall. Even Li Jingtian and Yen Song, who watched over the two of the 4 fifth-grade arrays, were present. Zhuo Fan was in the seat of honor with one leg over the other and sipping tea. They were all baffled. Why would this guy call everyone over? Did something happen? Zhuo Fan's casual disposition clearly pointed to the opposite. Snickering, his eyes roamed over everyone present. "I have summoned you all here today to bear witness to the official entitlement of the next clan head. It's been 2 years since the 3 clans have joined and Wingay City ultimately coming under Luo clan's rule. We, the Luo clan, are destined to enter the 7 houses. Now that there's infighting amongst them, it presents us with the best chance to rise. But a snake cannot live without a head, and today we shall settle this matter." "Aren't you the snake head? And now you want to make it official, going after a power play here?" Lei Yuding rolled her eyes. In any clan this line would have earned widespread shock, while in the Luo clan only a chuckle. Even Luo Yunhai and Luo Yunchang found it funny. They had absolutely no worry Zhuo Fan would snatch the clan head position all for himself. After all, Zhuo Fan was the one who called the shots in Luo clan's affairs, and even brought 2 strong elders over. If he'd ever wanted the job, he'd have done it when the Luo clan was at its weakest, at its most vulnerable. Why the hell would he wait till now? As such, to the Luo siblings, everyone was a potential traitor to the clan, but never Zhuo Fan. Because everything he had been doing was all for them. Tapping his teacup, Zhuo Fan smiled. "Haha, I don't fancy myself a clan head. I can't bear the thought of staying cooped up as one for my entire life. So I've asked for you to witness this kid's title as the next head be in effect." Zhuo Fan turned to Luo Yunhai, who was staring blankly. At this point, Captain Pang brought 4 men into the hall, the 4 traitors of Wingay City. Zhuo Fan had made sure they were kept alive just so Luo Yunhai would be the one to pass judgment. "Kneel." Captain Pang barked and the 4 fell. "I never liked any of you since the moment I saw you, but this time you only got yourself to blame." Kai Rong and the other 3 shivered with heads lowered from dread. Zhuo Fan waved and a steel essence great saber sank into the stone floor. The 4 flinched so scared they almost peed themselves. "Is Zhuo Fan planning on executing us?" Chuckling, Zhuo Fan turned to Luo Yunhai. "Yunhai, as a future clan head, it is your duty to punish these traitors." The others jerked. Now they realized what Zhuo Fan was going for. He had Luo Yunhai handle Luo clan's traitors and show his valor as clan head. But was he really going to make a child kill? They all felt restless and Luo Yunhai couldn't stop shaking. He had always stuck to Zhuo Fan, copying his demeanor, showing off all the same, but not once did he stop to think the day would come he'd soak his hands in blood. Not this soon at least. "Zhuo Fan, you're too much. He is but a child. How can you make him do such cruel things?" Luo Yunchang rushed to hug her baby brother while looking at Zhuo Fan with reproach. Captain Pang couldn't take it either, smiling wryly. "Brother Zhuo, is there a need for young master to handle these pests? Let me do it and spare young master for dirtying his hands." "Quiet. Are you the next clan head?" Kai Rong is a clan head himself, and only a clan head can settle him. Zhuo Fan glared. Captain Pang jerked back and kept to himself. Everyone was clear what Zhuo Fan was doing, to establish Luo Yunhai's authority in the clan and start him on the path of clan head. It was high time for everyone to no longer think of him as a helpless child. Li Jingtian and Yen Song slightly nodded. Zhuo Fan may be somewhat obstinate, but his every action was for the good of the Luo clan. If Luo Yunhai, the nominal clan head, would have someone else solve all his problems, he would no longer need to even think and would waste away. Zhuo Fan was doing all this so the Luo clan would have a worthy successor. All understood how much thought Zhuo Fan put into this. Luo Yunchang's heart was bleeding but steeled herself, pushing Luo Yunhai towards Zhuo. Zhuo Fan eyed him coldly, until the child swallowed dryly and sweated bullets. "Big bro Zhuo, don't joke around. I'm just a kid," Luo Yunhai laughed dryly. But Zhuo Fan's face was unchanging, pitiless. A child without a parent has long stopped being a child. If you don't do this, I promise that you will one day go through the massacre you went 2 years ago. At that time you will regret not grabbing power. Shuddering, Luo Yunhai was brought back to those cruel times of seeing his Luo clansmen murdered around him, the screaming, her sister scrambling for their lives, and his eyes gradually hardened. Ding. Luo Yunhai lifted the great saber from the floor with a ringing. Seeing him approaching, Kai Rong's group was scared witless. Yen Song's Yuan Qi had the four rooted on the spot, unable to make use of their own cultivation. They were so powerless even a 3-year-old could take their lives. They watched Luo Yunhai get poisoned by Zhuofan's guile and were filled with dread. Yunhai, listen to me. Don't you remember Uncle Kai taking care of you? Our clans are longtime friends. I even gave you shelter, Kai Rong pleaded, appealing to the child's innocence. Kai shouting bobbed his head. Yeah, don't you remember Big Brother bringing you so many toys when I visit your Luo clan? Don't do this to us. Yeah, and sister, Sun Yufei went with the flow, but no matter how much she racked her brains, nothing came out, only a mournful cry. Shit, sister never met you. I'm done for. Sun Clan head sighed as tears streamed down his face. Never had he imagined their mighty clan in Windgate City would live to see the day when a snot-nosed brat would cut their line short. All the other around them looked on with derision. These bastards have no shame, no morals. They're willing to stoop to any low as long as it keeps them breathing. Yet Luo Yunhai was steadfast, bringing the blade behind them. The screeching echoing from the blade being dragged was their requiem, making their hearts shudder with its tempo. Ding. Finally behind them, Luo Yunhai lifted the great saber way up. They heard the whoosh of the blade and the fours felt a chill crawling down their spine. I'm dead. They knew Luo Yunhai brushed off their words. They could already imagine their heads falling, closing their eyes and gnashing their teeth in preparation. Zhuofan watched everything coldly as Luo Yunchang turned her head away. The others were about to witness their clan head's first act of exacting punishment to traitors. Whoosh! A cold glimmer flashed and the four felt a chill, yet no pain at all, nor any blood was spilled. When they opened their eyes, they saw a strand of hair slowly floating from each of them. Luo Yunhai's childish voice sounded with a hint of power. Luo and Kai clans are friends. My ancestors taught us to be steadfast and righteous. You were never kind to us, but I cannot be cruel to you. I heard how the ancient people cut their hair instead and, with the power invested in me as the clan head, I have severed your threats. But henceforth our clans shall be strangers. And the next time you bring harm to us, your heads will roll. As for the Sun clan, I spared them on account of Kai clan as you are joined by marriage. So stop treating the Kai clan with such contempt. He was after all an elder of our Luo clan, and I hope not to see them in a bitter state after being driven away. The hall was still grave. All watched Luo Yunhai incredulously. None saw it coming, that a child was capable of such integrity, speaking of justice and benevolence. It struck a chord even in Li Jingtian and Yen Song's hearts. His words may have been naive, but were spoken with resolve. But doing it like this was going against Steward Zhuo's decision. The two hadn't been in the Luo clan for long, but it was obvious at a glance who was the real master here. They turned stiffly to Zhuofan to see him gloomy. It was unbearable for one to see the new lord he raised to disobey him in the end, especially if you were one with power. And this was Zhuofan, a man who was unruly, snatching power as he wished. This act was no different than having his power challenged. Li Jingtian and Yen Song looked at Luo Yunhai with a sigh. Even if you're the future emperor, as a kid, if you don't mind your tone and butt into the war between officials, you'll end up dead. Chapter 207, The Velvet Glove and the Iron Hand. Chapter 207, The Velvet Glove and the Iron Hand. Sensing Zhuofan's unnatural disposition, Luo Yunchang smiled widely as she cajoled. Zhuofan Yunhai is still just a child. He can't be. A light flick of his hand cut her off. Zhuofan had his eyes fixed on Luo Yunhai, cold as ice. Kid, is this your final decision? Even a profound heaven expert would feel his knees soften and scalp going numb when Zhuofan stared at him like a viper. Luo Yunhai was still wet behind his ears and the effect was even worse. Despite hesitating, Luo Yunhai's nod was firm. Big Bro Zhuo can kill them if he wants. But I do not believe they should die by our hands. Humph, naive. Li Jingtian and Yen Song chuckled. Zhuofan squinted and turned to the traitors. His gaze sent shivers down their spines and made their hearts feel as if it would explode in their chests. In the end, Zhuofan had the final say. The only good thing about the wimp Luo Yunhai was his title as future clan head, emphasis on the future. But out of everyone's expectations, Zhuofan nodded a sigh. No choice then. I really wanted to waste them, but since clan head spoke, we shall do it as he decided. Elder Yen released them. And dash come again? Yen Song was dumbfounded. Steward Zhua, are you sure? Getting a nod, Yen Song removed their restrictions and the traitor found themselves free to move. They cautiously watched Zhuofan while gazing at Luo Yunhai baffled. They were in denial, never believing the ruthless Zhuofan would defer to a wimpy kid. Their hearts were in chaos, not knowing what to do. So they began kowtowing in thanks for having their lives spared, but no clue as to who to thank. They were still baffled. Should they be thanking Zhuofan or the kid? Now that clan head spared you, take a hike. But Elder Kai, I still feel the need to stress something. Zhuofan's eyes flashed as his tone dropped. You will never get the chance to use the Luo clan to rise. Shuddering, Kai Rong understood his hidden meaning. He sighed, taking his son and the other two through the door. Zhuofan's meaning was simple. The Luo clan was strong enough to fend off the 7 houses. The Kai clan also had a stake in this powerful clan, but unfortunately, he was blinded by the 7 houses' exaggerated renown and jumped aboard the wrong boat. The Luo clan's future was going to be one of constant development and the 7 houses could no longer look down on them. But this no longer concerned this father and son pair. They brought this on themselves. Once the 4 were gone, all eyes were on Zhuofan, finding him unlike his usual self today. This was the very first time he relented the decision in favor of another. To a kid no less. Luo Yunhai was baffled as well. He recalled how every time he ever talked back when they were fleeing for their lives, Zhuofan would hit him good. Zhuofan, a servant, took advantage of his master's plight and vented. But this time. Big brother Zhua, you aren't yelling at me for going against your decision? Luo Yunhai blinked. Zhuofan smiled. Kid, you are Luo clan head and I the steward. Any advice is just that, advice. It is up to you to follow it. There's no disobedience here at all. Moreover, I said you have to deal with them, not kill them outright. Letting go of a few ants would hardly matter. The others exclaimed in realization, while also admiring Zhuofan. Zhuofan may be cunning and deceitful, but he always held the benefit of the Luo clan above all else. He could have easily taken control of everything, but he instead worked tirelessly to raise Luo Yunhai into handling the clan's affairs. This was a clear-cut sign he was willing to relinquish his power. What man in a powerful position would ever think of giving it all away? What the others didn't know was that Zhuofan prepped everything ever since the clan's misfortune. He didn't want a puppet but a truly strong clan. Otherwise, he would have been better off if he had made his own faction instead. Sigh, I am both assured and sad by your decision. Zhuofan shook his head and sighed. Luo Yunhai asked curiously, Big brother Zhua, how can you be both? You may not realize, but I am assured since you gathered up the nerve to stand up to me. As for sadness, that is because you are walking a completely opposite path from mine. All my time teaching you had gone down the drain. Luo Yunhai looked to her sister for an answer, but everyone was as clueless as he was. Smiling wryly, Zhuofan elaborated, every single ruler, be it a king, sect leader, or a mere clan head, rises to their position through their own way. There are of course thousands, tens of thousands of ways, but they all can be narrowed down to 2. One is ruling the people with a velvet glove, and the other with an iron hand. When I do things I don't need a reason. While you, kid, started preaching about righteousness and loyalty. Sigh, our paths are indeed opposite. They all started smiling wryly with Luo Yunchang teasing, with the Luo clan always having Steward Zhua around, everyone started shaking in fear every day. Fearing they'd slip up and get a tongue lashing from you. If Yunhai ends up like you, the clan would be done for. They all burst out laughing. Li Jingtian and Yen Song nodded instead. One Zhuofan had these 2 experts bending a knee. Despite their elder positions, it mattered not when this guy was around. If there were 2 Zhuofan, that would be a disaster. They'd end up as slaves. They were immensely gratified that the future clan head, Luo Yunhai, would have a different path than the demon Zhuofan. But not for the Luo clan, it was all in self-interest, relishing a better future in the clan. However, Zhuofan mocked with a shake of his head, women aren't as witty as their long hair suggests. All people respect ruling with a velvet glove, but it is used merely as a front while its core is rotten. How many people in this world truly rule with a velvet glove? The large majority rule with an iron hand and a velvet glove. If the Luo clan truly wants to grow into a benevolent clan, humph, I won't give it 2 years before it suffers calamity again. What? Then I'd rather walk the path of the iron hand like you. Luo Yunhai blurted, get those 4 back at once. I won't be as lenient. Luo Yunhai spoke with eyes filled with tears. The slaughter 2 years ago was still very fresh in his mind and his judgment was clouded by it. He absolutely couldn't let it happen again. Zhuofan could see the struggle in his heart as well. Shaking his head, Zhuofan rubbed the kid's head. The world may change, but your decision is final. The reason for today's affair was to see if you had it in you to be a clan head. Aha, and you passed with flying colors. The second reason was to see your path. It is a bit disappointing, but no worries, you have me. What you don't want to do, I will do it for you. You don't want a bloodshed, I will erect a bone tower and throne for you to stand on. You rule with a velvet glove, and I will sweep everything with an iron hand. All until there is no one around to defy your word. Big brother Zhua. Luo Yunhai wailed as he threw himself in his embrace. Luo Yunchang bit her lip, tears glistening, thank you. The others nodded with even more respect. The Luo clan may have nothing, but with Zhuofan there, it was enough. Old Pang, take the brat to Dugu army. He patted Luo's back and smiled. Had your path been the same as mine, I would have guided you in your cultivation. But now I see that old Dugu is the best suited for the job. Captain Pang pulled an unwilling Luo Yunhai away. Zhuofan turned to the rest. You may all return to your duties. Elder Yan, elderly, you two stay. The others left, leaving only Li Jingtian and Yen Song behind. Zhuofan sighed, just how is this possible? I've taught him for half a month already. He is Steward was still not over it? That brat must be like a son to you. Li Jingtian chuckled, but he couldn't hide the admiration. But Steward Zhua, I bow before you in true admiration. If it were me, I'd have long taken power in this wretched and weak clan for myself. I've never seen one as devoted as you. The Luo clan is indeed steadfast and righteous. You have my entire respect. Yes, Steward Zhua may be doing everything with an iron hand, but you are treating the Luo clan with a velvet glove. Such deep emotions and ethical behavior. I wonder what great favor has the Luo clan head done to Steward Zhua to earn such devotion into raising his children? Yen Song cupped his hands in respect. Zhuofan rolled his eyes. His relation with the former clan head was non-existent. It was all that damned heart demon's fault. Although his course of action was no longer entirely because of it, as he started to care for the Luo clan. But when it was all said and done, everything was in self-interest. So when they said he was using a velvet glove, he had to chuckle. You two have roamed the land for many years. Do any notable experts in fire and water attributes come to mind? Zhuofan suddenly asked. They exchanged a glance and said, why do you ask, Steward Zhua? Squinting, Zhuofan replied, Luo clan is currently safe, but trouble will soon come knocking. Of the 4 arrays, the Poison Dragon array in the east is handled by Elder Yen, and the Dazzling Gold array in the west by Elder Li, a body cultivator. I still need 2 experts to control the Black Flame array in the south and the Ice Shadows array in the north. If an attack comes, the 4 arrays can fend it off and also correlate with each other and not letting anyone out once they enter. Frowning, Li Jingtian said, 2 names come to mind now that I know what Steward Zhua is looking for. Who? Zhuofan asked anxiously. Raging Ancestor, Qiu Yanhai, and Ice Moon Witch, Shui Qingjian. What, those 2 old monsters? Vicious Pill King yelled and started shaking his head vehemently. Absolutely not. Those monsters are stubborn as mules. They refused to leave their seclusion even when Regent Estate invited them. The Regent Estate ended up forcing their way to them only to suffer dearly. None disturbed them since. Oh, and how is their strength? Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. 5th layer of Radiant Stage. Li Jingtian's eyes shined. I once fought with them myself. If the fight was one-on-one, I would have won, but they were working together, water and fire combined. Not even 5 of me could endure their attacks for long. Oh, they know how to combine fire and water? Very good. It's settled then. Zhuofan grinned, we're off at sunup. But Steward Zhua, how do we invite them? Yen Song blinked in worry. Snorting, Zhuofan snickered, what invitation? I have always used an iron hand in everything. Elder Li, do you still have the 2 spring pills? Of course, it's such an amazing pill and can't bear to throw it. Ha ha ha. The three shared a glance and started snickering evilly. Chapter 208 Fire and Water Conflict. Chapter 208 Fire and Water Conflict. At the crack of dawn, Zhuofan started on his journey with Li Jingtian to find those two old monsters without so much as a goodbye. He left Yen Song behind. Luo Yunchang was mad after she heard Yen Song tell her this. He's leaving and going whenever like this place is a tavern. Lei Yuding was just as pissed, because ever since his return, he has not once talked to her. They only spoke about the affairs of the outside and the Luo clan, never freely. Humph, that brat must be seeing someone outside. Lei Yuding's jaw was in a vice, her knuckles white, ready to pounce like a tigress. 3 days later, Dugu Zhantian had received imperial summons to return. The Dugu army left swiftly, taking with them Luo Yunhai, since he was his fifth godson. At the moment of parting with the Luo clan, Luo Yunhai felt somewhat sad seeing that Zhuofan wasn't there to see him off. It was normal for Dugu Zhantian to go off to war for decades, and who knew when the two would see each other again. He started feeling down. Luo Yunchang rubbed his head in an attempt to console him, but it proved useless. Zhuofan came and went as he pleased, though all knew he always had the Luo clan's best interest in every move. But every time he does this, it leaves everyone with a cold feeling. You could at least say goodbye to the child. But Zhuofan never even considered such trifles. He only had long-term returns in mind. 3 months later, two men stood in front of a 100-mile-long steep and winding mountain range. Not able to see the end of it caused Zhuofan to sigh. The mountain before them was called Snowfire Peak. One half was covered in endless snow, while the other in towering flames that made the entire sky shimmer from the heat. Its scorching blaze burned everything in a 10-mile radius. What was curious about it was the middle ground where the ice and fire met. The transition was jarring, as if someone drew a line. One step you'd be in ice, the next in a furnace. People couldn't help but sigh at the world's wonders. But Zhuofan knew this wasn't made by Mother Nature but men. This used to be a vibrant place full of life, not the Snowfire Peak what was called today. This happened due to two old monsters staying here. They up and started trading blows, shaping the mountain range with every exchange into this, a hell of fire and ice. How long did they fight to change the place so damn much? Zhuofan sighed. But in his mind he approved of such actions. Even in the Radiant stage, such power was impressive for these experts to have. They sure fit the bill for who he was looking for. Li Jingtian laughed wryly. Steward Zhua, they are a couple that used to fight against Tianyu and caused fear at their mere mention. But their character is strange, to put it mildly. They each cultivate an opposing cultivation method. They are unreasonable and do not answer to anyone. In the end they settled here and the empire calmed. Though they did ruin this fine place into this, ha ha ha. Since that's the case, how come Regent Estate couldn't get them? Zhuofan raised an eyebrow. Shaking his head, Li Jingtian sighed. Steward Zhua, this pair is bizarre to extreme. You need to look beyond their mere lovers' spat. Once an enemy comes, they both rise to meet it. Their cooperation is seamless. At the time, 10 Radiant stage experts were forced to withdraw, beaten to a pulp and filled with anger. I see. They look to be at odds, but their hearts are together. To protect each other. Zhuofan nodded. Then a sudden soul ripple passed over the two. They realized on the spot they'd been spotted. Elderly, you know what to do, right? Zhuofan spoke coldly. Snickering, Li Jingtian nodded. Of course, outsmart our betters, ha? Li Jingtian. With a whoosh, a man in red came from the burning side of the mountain range, bellowing with such rage that jarred the two's ears. Zhuofan eyed him carefully. He was a bald man in his 60s, had vibrant eyes as if they could shoot out flames, and heat seemed to be coming from his body constantly. Not 30 meters from him, Zhuofan could feel as the scorching heat was evaporating even his sweat. He reckoned that any closer would have him combust. His fire yuan qi is so pure. Zhuofan admired. Li Jingtian took a step in front of Zhuofan to shield him and shouted, Xiao Yanhai, it's been ages but more uncouth than ever it seems. You even release such pressure in front of a junior. Humph, uncouth? Were you and Regent Estate any different? There were 10 of you and only 2 of us back then. Xiao Yanhai mocked, his eyes staring at Li Jingtian. Mad Dipper, why are you here? There's no way you can beat us alone. Snickering, Li Jingtian said, Raging Ancestor, take it easy. I've not come as your enemy. It is this young master of ours who has a fire physique and the imperial tyrant body art isn't suited to him. I was tasked by the estate lord to bring him here so you can take him as a disciple. Disciple? Qiu Yanhai frowned. Your regent estate has many cultivation methods. Why must you come for mine specifically? Haha, you're absolutely right. Regent estate has many cultivation methods, but none greater than imperial tyrant body art. This young master wants to go higher, and has to train in the best fire cultivation method in the empire. Which brings me to you. Everyone knows Raging Ancestors' Heaven-Searing Inferno is second only to the 7 houses cultivation methods in the profound rank. Qiu Yanhai nodded, but the mere mention of Regent Estate stirred a raging fire in him. How could he take a disciple? He snorted, Li Jingdan, you've become more yellow on the inside ever since you joined the Regent Estate. If you wanted to show some goodwill in wanting me to have this kid as a disciple, the estate lord should have come himself. But seeing you here instead, proves all of Regent Estate is only a den of dogs. Li Jingtian was starting to get angry. Humph, I'm the yellow-bellied one? We'll see who has real guts once you swallow this thrifty little bloodworm. Raging Ancestor, enough bullshit. Will you take him or not? No? Qiu Yanhai barked. You dare ask me to take your young master as a disciple when your 10 venerables had us 2 surrounded back then? Li Jingtian, you think I'm as gutless as you? Li Jingtian gnashed his teeth, his patience wearing dangerously thin. He could only curse, we'll see soon enough. But just then an annoyed voice sounded, Elderly, your boasting of Raging Ancestor to high heavens barely convinced me to come take a look. And what do I see now that I'm here? Hardly anything to look at. He's even worse than our profound heaven elders. Qiu Yanhai looked to see Zhuofan mocking him and snapped, Cut the crap. I once fought 10 of your venerables and didn't lose once. How dare you say that? Isn't it? Zhuofan pointed at the mountain range with childlike fascination. Look, our profound heaven elders scorched a mountain so thorough that it can't freeze. But you are so weak with little yuan qi letting half of it freeze back. Qiu Yanhai was flummoxed. Did the Regent Estate have such an ignorant youth to not even know of the fight between these 2 great experts? To save his own face, Qiu Yanhai was forced to preach to the child, Kid, I don't quibble with ignorant youths. But you need to understand something, this wasn't a mountain set on fire, but the result of the bitter battle between me and my wife. Wow, amazing! Zhuofan exclaimed, you caused all this just from the aftermath of your battles. Not even our venerables can do that. Qiu Yanhai nodded pleased, sensible lad. But Zhuofan's next line had him close to spitting blood. Old Qiu, your wife is amazing. She almost froze your fire. Qiu Yanhai shuddered from rage. Punk, stop your nonsense. That's absolutely ridiculous. It is my fire that melted her ice. Raging Ancestor, who fought his wife for all this time, hated to be told he was weaker than her. Zhuofan knew this and still did it just to spite him. Zhuofan shared a glance with Li Jingtian and the 2 were giddy inside. But before Zhuofan could irk the old man some more, an elegant voice rang, Little brother is so adorable. Sister could just eat you up. Hear that, you old coot? Even this pup can see you're weaker, so just admit it. A white figure floated before them. Zhuofan looked to see a 17-year-old delicate girl, with bright eyes and dazzling smile. But Zhuofan knew it fully well she was 100-years-old hag. And when she started to call herself sister, it sent a chill right down to his core. He just couldn't make sense of something. The higher one cultivated, the long one's life was and the stronger one got. But this woman fancied wasting some of her cultivation to keep herself young and fit, to look like a fetching lady. If this part would have been used to improve her strength, she would have soared by now. Wouldn't she have beaten the old guy ages ago? Zhuofan shook his head. It was simply beyond his understanding. But that was normal. A pragmatic and cynical man who only saw gain would never understand why a woman dolled herself for her man. Chapter 209 Extreme Fire and Extreme Water. Chapter 209 Extreme Fire and Extreme Water. You're so pretty, sister. Zhuofan entered kid mode the instant he saw her, raining fake praises on her. The woman started pinching Zhuofan's whittled cheeks with a smile of joy. That's so sweet, you little rascal. Sister doesn't much like anyone from Regent Estate, but I'll make an exception just for you. Zhuofan nodded with a smile, pointing at Qiu Yanhai. Sister, are you his granddaughter? You look nothing alike. He's just so damn ugly. How can that thing ever relate to someone as beautiful as you? The woman's charming laughter made the world seem vibrant. She then pinched Juefan's cheek stronger. You're so adorable, you scamp. Hi hi hi. The two spectators broke into a coughing fit. Li Jingtian in particular, who was doing his best to signal Juefan. I say, Steward Jue, I won't judge if you do it without even realizing. But if you are doing it knowingly, sigh, have you no conscience? Qiu Yanhai stared a hole into Juefan and cursed, Are your eyes for decoration? That hag is 100 years old. Even while using some cultivation to keep up appearances, her aura is nothing like that of a young lass. You mean to tell me that in all your time cooped up in Regent Estate you've never even seen a girl? Oh. The woman replied before Juefan could, with a biting remark, Old fart, just where exactly do you see me as a grandma and not a lady? You want to be slapped? Humph, I rest my case. What lady in her right mind would call herself grandma? You're so old but ever shameless. Qiu Yanhai mocked. The women went red and huffed in anger as she sent a palm attack. In a flash of white, even the shimmering heat around them started turning into ice crystals. Qiu Yanhai was fully focused on fighting back. With a flick of his sleeve, a blaze erupted, blocking the white light. Old crone, you want to go at it again? And what if I am? Who told you to run your mouth before this child that this grandma is old? Humph, so what if I call you old? You're so on in years yet still thinking of raising a cherry boy into your sugar daddy? Shut your mouth, you old fart. The two snapped at each other at every chance they got. Juefan and Li Jingtian smiled and sighed. It was then that Li Jingtian shook his hands vehemently. People, I came here for this child to get a master, not to see a lover's spat. And since Brother Qiu is very much against the idea, we'll be taking our leave. Later, sister. Juefan waved sadly at the woman. The woman's heart softened and shouted, Wait, I love this child dearly. I'll teach him. You can teach shit. He has a fire physique and only my fire cultivation method fits him. Why are you butting in when you're just a water cultivator? Qiu Yanhai retorted sourly. The woman brushed him off as she puffed out her chest. Grandma fought with you for so long that I figured out your heaven-searing inferno and know it like the back of my hand. Why can't I take this kid in? Qiu Yanhai paused for a moment, realizing the truth of it, but still ridiculed. I am not the best fire expert in Chanyu just from my cultivation method, but also this. His hand was holding a rumbling scarlet flame. Juefan's eyes widened in shock. Heaven and earth spirit flame, earth erupting fire sea. Kid, you've got quite the eyes. Qiu Yanhai raised an eyebrow, then nodded in pride. Precisely, if you were to be my disciple beside the heaven-searing inferno, you will get a fragment of this earth-erupting fire sea. That will make you my true successor. Juefan nodded. Now he knew why Raging Ancestor was so strong to fend off 10 Radiant Stage experts alongside Ice Moon Witch. They were not only in sync, but had the earth-erupting fire sea as well. Despite all being called heaven and earth spirit flame, some were better than others. Vicious Pill King's bone soul true fire came from the bowels of a corpse deep in the earth, a e'en but gentle flame. It was best used in refining while falling short in combat. As for the earth-erupting fire sea, it came from the heart of a volcano volatile to extreme. It was a young and fierce flame that not only helped in refining but also an important asset in battle. Juefan flicked his eyes on Li Jingtian. This guy got the upper hand on Qiu Yanhai back then, even when the other used the earth-erupting fire sea. It is obvious how strong his body was. And that was only at the 7th stage of Imperial Tyrant Body Art. Now he not only changed to the Wraith Art, but also had the 3 matching profound ranked martial arts. Who knew how far he could go? Mad Dipper was a martial fanatic through and through. He has a body of a refining genius. Zhou Fan truly struck gold when he had this old man join his gang. Noticing his gaze and easily figuring out what he was thinking, Li Jingtian chuckled with his head thrown back. Sister, he said I can get the heaven and earth spirit flame if I become his disciple. What if? Juefan pointed at Qiu Yanhai with a bright smile. Squinting, Ice Moon which wasn't about to back down just like that. Child, don't be so hasty. What that old guy has, so do I. Damn, the guy is a fire expert. Getting a heaven and earth spirit flame was a cinch for him. While you, a water expert, dare say you have one as well. Aren't you afraid it's gonna conflict with your cultivation method? But the next thing he knew, Juefan was staring into the Ice Moon Witch hand. She was holding a flickering and bright bluish fire. Zhuofan's eyes twitched and shouted, "Holy hell, the Ice Heart Moon Soul." Correct. Among the rarest heaven and earth spirit flames, the one to match a water cultivator the most was this Ice Heart Moon Soul. This fascinating flame came to be in the core of a 10,000 years old ice that had been bathed by moonlight for another 10,000 years. Its warmth was bliss, its nature one that brought inner peace while also doing wonders to one's cultivation. But its most redeeming quality was that it could freeze any and every single thing in the world. No one could fend it off. Taking another look at the two, Zhuofan now knew why these monsters could repel Regent Estate's 10 venerables. With Earth erupting Fire Sea and Ice Heart Moon Soul working in tandem, their power would explode. They were capable of drawing out the most of their power by joining hands. That was how they beat those 10 Radiant Stage experts. Oh my, you sure know a lot, child. It is a rare heaven and earth spirit flame, but not many know of it. How is it you recognize the Ice Heart Moon Soul with just a glance? Shui Qingjian eyed him inquisitively. Zhuofan laughed wryly, "Something I picked up from an ancient book, haha. Hey, the kid wants to train in fire. Your Ice Heart Moon Soul is pretty enough, but doesn't suit him. I advise you to stop butting in." Seeing Zhuo piqued Shui Qingjian's interest, Qiu Yanhai shouted. Darting his eyes around in thought, Zhuofan caught on to something. He grabbed Shui Qingjian's hand and started waving it around in his best childlike tone. "Sister, I really want to train with you, but our attributes don't match. I can't use the Ice Heart Moon Soul either. Can you make the old man share his earth-erupting fire sea with me?" "Hey punk, hands off the crone." Qiu Yanhai was fuming mad. Shui Qingjian raised an eyebrow and laughed. "All right, I'll help you." She turned to Qiu Yanhai. "Old fart, are you up for a bet?" "What kind?" "Per usual. If you get even half a move over me, I won't take the kid as a disciple. If I get the upper hand, then you will give the earth-erupting fire sea to the kid as a gift to my disciple. What do you say?" Shui Qingjian shouted. Zhuofan hugged Shui Qingjian. "No, sister. I want to stay with you. I want no earth-erupting fire sea." "No worries, child, this old geezer has never beaten me once." Patting his head, Shui Qingjian giggled. Qiu Yanhai was pissed off by the taunt. "Damn punk, didn't I tell you to lay off the crone?" "No way." Shui Qingjian and Zhuofan jutted their chests and replied at the same time. One could almost see steam coming out of Qiu Yanhai's head. But since he didn't dare flare at Shui Qingjian, he directed it all on Li Jingtan. "Old freak, you brought this pretty boy. After I finish here, I'll settle the score with you." Li Jingtian shrugged. "Fine, it's a deal." Huffed Qiu Yanhai. "Let's go to our old place." He vanished the instant he finished talking. Shui Qingjian laughed and followed, with Zhuofan shouting behind her, "Sister, I don't care about that fire. Just don't get hurt." But when the two were gone, Zhuofan flipped back to his calm and calculating face. "Have a pleasant flight, you too." "Haha, Steward would change his faces quite fast. If I didn't know you any better, that innocent act of yours would have taken me in from the start, thinking you're just a naive kid." Tone down the flattery. Zhuofan snapped his flickering eyes on Li Jingtan. "You think those monsters are that easily fooled?" "Humph, they were always on guard." Does that mean our plan is botched? They won't fight?" "Hardly." Zhuofan snickered. "Oh, they will fight all right and go all out as well. Because whenever the old hag wants a fight, the old guy will naturally assist her. But they will always be on guard because of you." Li Jingtian frowned. Zhuofan continued with a chuckle, "While disregarding me completely." Just then a massive boom echoed, followed by the sky splitting in half. One side was filled with a raging inferno to burn the world asunder, while the other a fierce blizzard capable of freezing everything. Zhuofan snickered. "One is extreme fire and the other extreme water, but neither can escape from my palm. I must have these elders." That you're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.